Today is Thursday, September 16th, 2021. Seeing a quorum, this meeting is officially called to order. Madam Recording Secretary, please take roll call.
Robin Magnair.
Here.
Jose Hernandez. Jose, are you here?
Here.
Thank you. Debra Russell.
Here.
Indigo Wu.
Here.
Leonel Flores.
Here.
Steve Gallegos.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. And I'd like to acknowledge that tonight we have two new commissioners, Commissioner Steve and Commissioner Leonel Flores. So I just wanted to give them a moment to introduce themselves very briefly. Who would like to start?
I don't mind starting.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for welcoming me here. I am from Ward 2. I'm David Peñalosa's ward, and I'm a Santa Ana resident. I've been here all my life. I'm very excited to be on this Arts and Culture Commission, and yeah, anything you guys want to know, please let me know. I'll share.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leonel Flores. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, and thank you for being so welcoming. I am also a lifelong resident of Santa Ana from the Madison Park neighborhood, which is located within Ward 6, and with Council Member Nelida Mendoza.
Thank you so much. Okay, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Maybe I'm in a meeting. Okay,
Cross.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you right now.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, members of the public may address the Arts and Culture Commission regarding any non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the committee. No action item may be taken on non-agenda items unless authorized by law. Does the public have any comments they wish to share with the commission? Please know that you have 3 minutes to speak.
We have Media Arts Santa Ana. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, this is Victor Payan with Media Arts Santa Ana. Most of you know me. I'm a resident of the Pacific Park neighborhood. And I want to welcome the new not council members, as a challenge for you guys, but the new arts commissioners for this meeting. It's a really wonderful commission, one that has an opportunity to do a lot of good for the community. And we're in the middle of a 10-year plan, so there's plenty of visioning and recommendations that you can make for the city to really make a difference. And we, when we were at the start, I was on the committee to help put it together. One of the big things that we wanted to do was make sure the arts were utilized for the economic benefit of Santa Ana artists and arts organizations, to increase the livability, and to really measure the economic impact so that the city can make informed policy decisions about the arts and how to fund them. And to that effect, I wanted to say that something that's been in discussion since the beginning of the Arts Commission was participation in the Americans for the Arts, Arts and Economic Prosperity Study. It's every 5 years, so we didn't participate in 2015, and a presentation was made to the Arts Commission, I think in 3 months ago, but the deadline is coming up. The deadline was actually September 30th, but it's now been extended a month to October 30th. This is critical because it measures the economic spending of arts organizations and arts audiences, and the city needs this data to take the arts seriously, so they can allocate resources and allocate programs for our community. And we've said it a million times, Santa Ana has some really wonderful youth programs in the high schools for the arts, for every discipline. But as soon as people graduate, there are no jobs here they can go to. They got to go to LA or take kind of minimum wage jobs here. We need to change that. Santa Ana is great for digital arts, technology, the coding. Rickenbacker Guitar is located here in Santa Ana. So we have a lot of real jobs for Santa Anans and creating new ones in the future, but we need that civic support and we need to understand the economic benefit. So I wanted to follow up with you all regarding the city's participation in the Americans for the Arts and Economic Prosperity 6 study. As you know, the deadline to participate has been extended to the end of October, and the fee for participation is $9,000, and it can be divided among 3 years, so $3,000 a year. As our community first discussed participating in the 2015 AEP study, if we miss this opportunity, the next chance to participate will be in 5 years. This would mean for that the entire duration of the city's arts master plan, we would not have generated the exact kind of economic data the plan was put in place to ascertain. Given the importance of this study and the looming deadline to participate, MASA is offering to participate at the level of $3,000 to help toward the city's participation in the AEP. So MASA will contribute $3,000 to the effort. We will help with the surveys. We will help with the community outreach with the United Artists of Santa Ana. We need to get these numbers. And if we don't do it now, we will have lost 10 years of being part of the national dialogue. We know the numbers are going to be strong, but the city won't understand how strong until they see it. Americans for the Arts is a national organization. They've done this for more than 20 years. It'll put us on the national stage, and it will show the city the potential and the current reality of what the arts sector generates. That's not just arts organizations that we see as arts, that's printing. That's, people that spend money in restaurants, that spend money in parking, that spend money getting their hair done, spend money on supplies. It tabulates all of that, looking at the arts organizations. We can look at grassroots art organizations, but if we don't do it now, I think the Arts Commission made a recommendation to do it to the City Council, but if we don't act on it, it'll be gone for another 5 years, and there really is no other kind of study like this for the money that you're going to get the results and the visibility and the insight as to what really makes our arts community run. We're very strong proponents of media arts, and we know there's a lot of media arts and filming happening here, gaming, coding, etc., post-production. The city needs to count it and give us the resources that we provide to the city revenues. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Next, we have Alicia Rojas. Go ahead.
Hi, trying to turn on my camera, but I think you have to enable. I'm not able to turn on my video. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
It's saying that the host has asked you to start your video. Yay. Hi, Arts Commission, TRAM, everybody. Thanks so much. My name is Alicia Rojas. Welcome to the new commissioners. I don't think I know you, so I wanted to present myself. I am a local artist, also a resident of Santa Ana. I'm currently a Grand Central artist in resident as well. And I'm a co-founder of the Santa Ana Community Artists Coalition, who we focus on community engagement, social engagement for public art projects in the city. And I sent you guys a little letter, and let me know if you have any questions on that. I can make myself available to you for any follow-ups. I wanted to touch up, and thank you to Tram for the last, I wasn't able to stay through the whole last meeting. She did a presentation on the artist grants to the new commissioners, and I'm really excited to hear that they're coming back. I just wanted to give a little feedback to the new commissioners. And I'm not sure how much of this has changed or if this has been a topic yet on the budget for the artist grants. It is called investing in the artist. But in the past, it's been really hard for artists to add artist fee to this grant. It's mostly, supplies and materials. So I like for the new art commission with new eyes to review some of that process and maybe take a look at the budget and see what it is allowed for the artist fee. I understand that the city looks at these grants to uplift the art of the artist, which is wonderful. Our organization, I wrote the first wave of grants. We were a recipient, very proud of it for our award-winning mural. But it would be great to get that budget re-seen and seeing the allocations for artist fees to support community artists, professional artists, any artist that's applying. And I wanted to also touch upon good news on the Artesia Pilar. I am a part of the board, volunteer board for that, the Artesia Pilar Civic Center La Raza Community Mural. It looks like we're very close to fundraising the $45,000 that we need in order to get this project going. We also have found all the original artists. This is the 30th year of this mural. So we will be working soon on a operations schedule and timeline as we have been working really hard to get this going. So we're really proud of that. This is an effort that's being led by the neighborhood association, and there's just some of us volunteering to help out that effort, and just so excited to have found the original artists that are coming aboard. Georgie lives in Bakersfield, so we're going to have him come out. We're very excited and proud. So that's it. I just want to say welcome to everybody, and thanks for your time, and for the commissioners to take a look at that budget for the artist grant, if possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alicia. Next, we have Ms. Yenni. Go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I guess it's doing the same thing with me, that it won't let me turn on the camera. But while that happens, and if it happens, I just wanted to say hello to everybody. Good evening. I can't believe it's already almost October. Oh, here we go. As it starts my video. Makes it a little more personable. There we go. So most of you guys know me. My name is Yenni Beral. I am a local artist in the city of Santa Ana. I've dedicated the last 13 years of my life to the art scene here. I was the art walk coordinator for the last 7 years with downtown, as well as I am a business owner. So I have a small business where I run an art event company. We basically focus on arts literacy, but also bringing fun into our community. So today, I'm always kind of coming to kind of be like, where's the money? Where's the money? And I hope that it is exciting, to hear that there is some opportunity. It is a little bit vague, and it's a little bit worrisome to hear that, like, well, because I've been talking to some of the council members, and they're like, oh, we just gave you 100,000. But then we talk to our commissioners, and they're like, well, that's not our money. So when it comes to equity, again, I would like to say that a little bit more clarification on what projects are being welcome, or what kind of proposals are being expected, just so that, again, we can bring some jobs to our community of artists here in downtown, so that we can stay. It is no lie or no unknown to anyone what's happening on the 4th Street, and how very, very soon we're not going to be able to stay. So how do we problem solve now to stop the complete gentrification, and with that, the outing of the artists? So sorry, so that was my spiel with, again, the equity part. But also today I'm excited. I'm wanting to invite you guys. I've been working with the local mall, with Main Place Mall, for the last 7 years. I started doing Dia de los Muertos celebration, which we'll be having on October 30th. So I wanted to invite you to that, as well as we're hosting our own art walk. So we've been hosting art walks for 5 years. And this is a little bit more guided towards like the youth, like younger community. I would like to invite you this Saturday, September 18th, from 2 to 5 p.m. We're going to be hosting our art walk, and we're going to have a free workshop, but we're going to be giving some drawstring bags for kids to paint. We're going to have free caricaturists, free face painting, as well as live music. So I just wanted to invite you, Robin, you're my star when it comes to our youth. And right now we also have a gallery. That's the other big news that I have for you guys. We just opened a new gallery at the Main Place Mall. They're very, very supportive of artists. They're very, very understanding of the need for arts literacy. So I'm really hoping to get some more of our kids' work in the gallery. Right now we have Valley High School and Adams Elementary. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys. Welcome to our new commissioners. Really excited to see how we can all work together. And that's all. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you, Yenni.
Thank you.
I believe that concludes our public comments, Robin.
Thank you so much. Okay, so this is the time for the commission to consider matters under the consent calendar, items 1 and 2. Do I have a motion to consider item 1 and 2? And those are together.
That is
Motion.
correct. Thank you, Commissioner Wu.
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Russell.
Thank you. Is there any discussion about these items? All right, seeing none, let's take a vote. Madam Secretary, will you please vote to approve please conduct the vote.
When I call your name, please say it aye. Robin McNair,
Aye.
Jose Hernandez. Jose, can you hear me?
Aye.
Thank you. Deborah Russell,
Aye.
Indigo Wu,
Aye.
Leonel Flores,
Aye.
Steve Gallegos,
Aye.
thank you. Okay, we'll pass.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to move into our work study session. We have 2 items under work study session tonight. Please note that there will be no motion or action taken on these items. The first item is the Ad Hoc Subcommittee on Art Walk report. So who's going to be leading that?
I can share
Yes,
it
so
as long as I can get my screen to share.
I could do it too. Here. Oh, Bianca, I think we need access to be able to share.
Either Commissioner Russell or I can do it.
So to clarify for the community while we're waiting, Commissioner Vu, Commissioner Russell, and Vice Chair Hernandez were the ad hoc committee who also engaged other community members, and this is their report. Thank you.
Yes. Other ad hoc members, I might need a little cueing here. I didn't know I'd be presenting. So if I skip my slide, just give me a nudge. So to start off with, and particularly for our new commissioners, this is just a bit of a preface to sort of help set the stage for why the ad hoc was formed in the first place. So as you can read here, back in April, the Voice of OC published an op-ed called Saving Santa Ana's Art Walk. And I can forward that to anyone who's interested. It was published by Yenni Beral, who appeared a few moments ago, really drawing attention to the fact that Art Walk had been essentially canceled, obviously because of the pandemic, which was not a surprise, but that there was a need for the community to call for its return. And there were reports at that time that funding for Art Walk had possibly evaporated in some way. Following that op-ed, Ryan Smolar of Downtown Inc. presented at Art Walk presented on Art Walk at one of the ACC meetings, and announced that once event permits would be reinstated, that Art Walk would possibly return. But the community had already been, alarmed at the situation that was at stake, that possibly Art Walk, might not return or might not return in the same form, or that there were changes underway. And so because of that, there was enough community input and calls during these meetings that an ad hoc was formed, and Commissioners Hernandez and Commissioner Vu, Commissioner Hernandez, Commissioner Vu, and myself formed this committee. And we proceeded then over the summer to meet with different civic leaders, artists, and event organizers to really understand the landscape, both Art Walk in Santa Ana, but also Art Walk in neighboring cities, to possibly inform the future of this very important event in our city.
Yeah. And so the Downtown Inc. Art Walk, just kind of briefly, we did have the presentation, as was mentioned, by Ryan Smoller, that details a lot of who they are in relation to the city and how they're involved in the programming. So these are just some things that should be made clear to the community and to all the commissioners. So the Downtown Inc. does its own programming for the downtown, alongside many times with the Santa Ana Business Council. They are a nonprofit with its own executive board that makes its own decisions, so it's not a city entity. It has had a good working relationship with its, according to the Santa Ana Police Department individual, charged with this, and also the city staff that then allow it to approve its events. And then it does receive funding from donations, grants, the BID, which is a business improvement district tax, that's self-imposed by downtown businesses, and also they just do receive some parking structure funding. But the city has no control over the current bid and what Downtown Inc. does with its funding. After Downtown Inc.'s presentation at the Art and Culture Commission meeting, the future of Art Walk appeared uncertain to myself and to others, commissioners, members of the community.
So here are a few of pros and cons that were shared with us, both from community members during our own discussion, and then obviously as we consulted with different parties. I'll give everyone a chance to just read through these two lists. Any questions about any of these items?
We should probably hold questions to the end.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, that's my professional hat on. All right, so we will move into some of the information that we gathered in our meetings with civic leaders, artists, and other event organizers, and you'll start to see some of the relationships between this information and that.
All right, we were able to hold 3 meetings as the subcommittee. The first one that we held was with William or Bill McGovern. He is the Santa Ana Police Department Community Services Specialist. And his job, as he explained it to us, is that he handles all special event permits in the city in public spaces that are not parks. He also did a presentation for the Arts and Culture Commission a few weeks after we met him in our subcommittee meeting, and he provided most of the same information. He provided some more detail, but here is just basically our main takeaways. And the next 2 slides also are going to be the main takeaways from meetings with these experts that we interviewed. The main takeaway for our meeting, so that we're not repeating information that he presented before, is that anyone can apply for a permit. There is no restriction on who can apply and who cannot apply. The only restriction is that he said that he cannot approve 2 events happening at the same time and location, or with the same name if they're being applied for by two different parties. And this is just for clarity. This is to make sure that we don't have too many events happening in the same place. This is for safety reasons. If there were to be multiple events that are trying to apply for the same permit or this permit at the same time and location, or with the same name, then it would either get rejected, or there would have to be some sort of conversations with the city manager and the chief of police to actually make the recommendations and decisions at the end. We also met with Yenni Beral, just drawing on her previous experience as the former Downtown Inc. Art Walk coordinator. She was not hired back by Downtown Inc. before the new Downtown Inc. Art Walk began this past August. And during her presentation, she gave her personal testimony on her experience in the last 7 years and the challenges with bringing all the pieces together, making sure that artists were paid for the event, making sure that there were activities that served all people of various ages and abilities. And the biggest recommendation from her presentation to us was that there ought to be a low cost for vendors and artists to be part of the event, so that there is not a barrier to local artists participating, as opposed to the high cost that sometimes happens with these events where people have to apply for permits to get it. And finally, our last interview was with Cynthia Lujan, who is one of the people who helped organize the Long Beach Art Walk. She was the public art manager for the Arts Council for Long Beach. And we wanted to get this look, we wanted to get her perspective because we wanted to understand how art walks functioned in places outside of Santa Ana. And for Cynthia specifically, she recommended that local businesses work with artists collaboratively, and particularly through an artist registry. The Arts Council for Long Beach kept a list of artists in the city, and businesses were able to conduct that use that registry in order to make deals, negotiations, and conduct business with artists. She also recommended, especially with COVID, the strength and the versatility of pop-up events as a way to begin new arts events. And she really strongly recommended that if there are new events, even if they are just pop-ups, that they determine really clearly the start and end dates so that they can negotiate funds for a basis to continue to negotiate and establish logistics. So if you are to begin a new event, especially in the city of Santa Ana, the permits are given if it's a recurring event for 6 months at a time. And so if you plan for those 6 months, it gives you the structure needed to plan new events and make sure that they can be sustainable.
So before we share our vision, the vision that the ad hoc committee has developed, I want to share this context, which is that the Art Walk in downtown Santa Ana, where it is sort of known and associated with, and that's part of the reason why there's no need for advertisement of it, because everyone simply knows of this event. It's been a very important galvanizing force for arts, for community, for culture, and for commerce. It really serves all these purposes. And we want to honor the legacy of this event. It was conceived of, or it started with a gathering of local artists, primarily in and around the Santora building, which many people just simply associate with Art Walk or have great memories around, as I can say I do as well. And that was over 2 decades ago. But since really Santa Ana, I think because Art Walk was started by artists, it was such a popular event, it was a community-driven event, and the work that all of these artists put in to show that Santa Ana is a really fun, exciting, beautiful, and creative place to gather on a regular basis. Because of that, other groups have since really seen Santa Ana as a place where they do want to host events. And so you've seen a proliferation of other, craft fairs, other events, just running the gamut of all different types of arts, targeting different audiences with different purposes, all congregating in the same or similar location. And so as a final statement, we just want to make sure that we acknowledge the contributions of all of these artists and these community members to making all of that possible. And that's something that we should support and we should celebrate together. And here is our vision statement for what we hope future art walks will use as a guiding idea. And while this is just a statement today, we hope that this really can become a way that we make decisions about how we invest in the arts in the future. Although that is not decided today, this is really what we hope will help us make decisions about, where we should invest, who should we invest in when it comes to future arts funding that we hope we can secure. Jose? In just a moment, he will present our findings, which are 3. And so there's quite a bit of text here. I encourage you to read it here before he shares his thoughts.
Hi. Sorry, everyone. So yeah, from the next part that we're talking about here is our findings and suggestions for the community and for our commissioners to consider. So location and time. Multiple locations was an option, so possibly rotating among the various wards in the city, so that it's not just focused on the downtown. There's all sorts of places that folks can engage around. The Parks and Rec department regularly co-sponsors and therefore waives some fees for community events. That's something to keep in mind. And there is a community component of it, that there's definitely a probability for fees to be waived, to make it more affordable and able to be done by the community. Due to conflict with time, downtown events are not recommended to happen on the first Saturday of the month. So, as aforementioned by Commissioner Vu, it's basically what the police department stays away from, is trying to convolute things as far as events in the downtown in the same location. Advisory teams, community artists. So for any of arts events, organizers should communicate and collaborate with local artists and community members. Again, these are suggestions for folks that are looking to do events in the downtown, to be able to outreach to the community. And having a symbiotic relationship between local artists and businesses and organizers that can elevate the local esteem. The other thing is the artist and event registry. Maintained and updated artist registry for Santa Ana based artists is essential to businesses and organizers building this relationship with local artists. And a registry could be used for local businesses or patrons to commission and hire local artists from all practices. So, just these are the kinds of findings and suggestions that we found, came to the conclusion of based on our conversations with the folks that we mentioned and other individuals that are interested in events, particularly downtown, particularly in regards with art. And that is that. So we'll go to the last slide, which is questions and comments.
Well, I just want to add one more detail, which is that the Arts and Culture Commission and TRAM has volunteered in some sense to help manage such an arts registry, so that it is something that is both kind of sponsored by the city. Not to say there's going to be any declarations about quality of art or anything like that, but really that Santa Ana, because it is a city of the arts, will be a place where artists can register, and then any small business or any organization that wants to collaborate in this way will have a place that they know they can go to for that information that will be current and accurate.
I have a couple of clarifying questions. Thank you so much, first of all, for this presentation. That's been very helpful to see where we're headed and where we've been. And thank you for clarifying, because that was one of my questions. Who would maintain the artist registry? Because in the past that has been created, but it's not a city-driven initiative. So So we're making a recommendation that the City Arts and Culture Commission office create the registry and maintain it. Is that what I'm, okay. And then we are recommending multiple Art Walk events around the community and not necessarily on the first Saturday. So I wanted to clarify, we have to make sure that they're not all named Art Walk, right? Like that when people are applying for permits and things, that they would have to name things differently. So maybe it's Ward 4 Art Walk or something like that instead of just Art Walk. Is that what we need to be thinking about in terms of the permitting because of the multiple events and the city permitting?
Yes, from what I understood from William McGovern's presentations, it does need to be distinct enough that the city can actually distinguish between these particular events. And then another note about the registry, we wanted to look more into this, but it was actually outside the purview of our ad hoc subcommittee. And so we did talk to Tram about this as well. And if the commission does want to explore this a little bit further, a separate ad hoc committee could be formed to look into just the registry alone.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you. So is that something, point of order to Tram or our staff? Is that something we could ask for in this meeting to be created?
Yes, you can create a subcommittee. And if you'd like, you can appoint people to that subcommittee.
Okay. And my final question is just with our recommendations by the commission, who organizes the art walks? Who would be responsible for organizing art walks under our recommendation? I do love, by the way, I love the advisory. That's a great idea. But who would organize? Because that isn't something commissioners would do, right? Okay, just clarify.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is one of the questions that I feel that is the main one as far as how it's done in other cities and how it could be done here, right? So it is a situation where it would take city staffing and so therefore lots of funding and perhaps that would create a disconnect between the community, right? Perhaps, maybe not. With an advisory board tied to it, yeah, but again, it would be building a lot of infrastructure, which would take time and money and direction from the council. The other thing is that it could be, and in my opinion, it should be something that is just a grassroots-driven movement by various entities or you know, a coalition of artists and/or businesses that can take it upon themselves to do these events. But you know, one of the challenges is the insurance that has to, you know, that folks have to have in order to have events in the downtown. So that is a deterrent that ideally we would figure out a way where the city could fund that for people, you know, for artists doing utility boxes to even art events. Then the other thing is partnering with the Santa Ana Unified School District or other entities too that have a nonprofit status that could have a program within its, you know, its overall, you know, mission statement to be able to do these things, to do art walks would be a thing. Last thing, like as we mentioned, perhaps even having, you know, a partnership between community artists and the school district so that have rotating art exhibitions at the various school sites. Those are some comments.
Thank you. Those are my questions for now. It looks like
to add
Commissioner
on
Flores.
to Vice Chair Hernandez's comments, actually Cynthia Lujan actually spoke about this because the art walk in Long Beach as well has definitely shifted structure over the past several years since the inception of it. And one of the observations that she made was actually that it was incredibly difficult to maintain and sustain as an event because it was difficult to coordinate with the city directly. And she really strongly I believe that the Arts Council of Long Beach tried to rally for a particular staff member at the city of Long Beach to handle just art walk stuff, because that's how labor intensive it is. And that is definitely something to keep in mind for any organizations, individuals, artists who are looking to continue to build out the idea of what arts events in Santa Ana look like. It is absolutely incredibly labor intensive. And so that's one of the reasons why there needs to be this support from multiple sides as well. And unfortunately, currently the Arts Office, the Arts and Culture Office of Santa Ana is short-staffed. It is low on capacity as always, and we don't currently have the capacity to run it ourselves, which is the reason why we strongly recommend it be grassroots efforts in order to build out these events more.
One last quick question. Thank you for that clarification, Commissioner Vu. How do you foresee creating an advisory for the Art Walk?
I believe that recommendation of ours on the slides was mostly as a general best practice rule. If you are going to create some sort of arts event, if you're going to organize an arts event in Santa Ana, it is in your best practice to have your own team of advisory and your own advisory team of community artists to consult as best as you can to make sure that you're not replicating any sort of harmful practices, contributing to gentrification, making sure that you're being as inclusive as you possibly can.
And I realize now looking at it, it looks like we are advising that there is a organization composed of artists that might oversee, I think I foresee actually the third column being our first step towards something like that, which is first of all, to make sure that artists have that we have the awareness of all the different artists who call Santa Ana home or work in Santa Ana. Because right now there isn't a place that you can go to and sort of see who are all our visual artists, who are our musicians, and so that's a first step. And I think the advisory is an aspiration that, again, we may get to, but the first thing that we need to do is really recognize who our artists are so that they get they can have those opportunities to collaborate and possibly launch new events. One of the messages being that Art Walk was, for a long time, it felt like the art event in Santa Ana. And we're now at a stage where that event has spawned many different kinds of events, and we want to celebrate that. And because there's now more opportunities for artists to lead events, for artists to envision events that are different. If they're perhaps not happy with Art Walk in some way, now we have opportunities really to launch all different kinds of arts events. And I hope that we can use funding in the future to be able to support those efforts.
Thank you so much. Commissioner
Then
Flores?
go ahead. I was gonna say he had his hand, he has a question.
Thank you. I think you clarified one of my questions on who would be in charge of running the event. I think my other question is what's the association between, I guess, Downtown Inc. and Art Walk? And I guess, is there any association with the city or between the three, or how does that relationship work? I think is what I was looking for more clarification.
Yeah, as I mentioned in my slide, it's its own entity, its own nonprofit. And though there is a working relationship with the city and Downtown Inc., because of the bid is managed, which is the funding, that is the taxes imposed on the downtown businesses, is managed by the city, but it doesn't direct how those funds are used. So really, and when we've asked, well, how can the community affect or suggest changes to the Art Walk, it has been suggested for us to go to their board meetings and make our comments be known. And actually, Commissioner Vu attended one of those meetings, and it was challenging, to say the least, as far as the feelings of the community and their inability in a lot of ways to kind of be heard was the overall motion from. But I won't speak for Commissioner Wu. She could speak to that. But all to say that it's its own separate.
Okay, I guess another follow-up, I guess, to that. So is Art Walk, is that their event? Is that a collaboration between us and them? Or is that something where the city is trying to develop or like make its own? I'm not too clear on how we're trying to move forward with it.
Yeah, understood. So the context is that we were looking into potentially filling a void or being able to see what ways that the city or the community could organize an art walk and what other cities have done. But currently, as it stands, there is no direction and no recommendation for the city to create its own art walk. As far as, at least that's not what our recommendations are, but that could be a way that could be done. But for the time being, and not, as long as Downtown Inc. continues to do the event and can get the permits from the city and from the police department approved, which anybody could do or could have done, then that event will continue to go. And so, there's not really a way that this commission could change that.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
For a little bit more context as well, just so that there's a timeline to these events. So when the pandemic happened, obviously Art Walk was discontinued because it was unsafe for that many people to be together, whether outdoors or not. And so they had shifted temporarily to an online structure, mostly I believe through Facebook, where folks were still doing like virtual exhibitions through like videos and virtual walkthroughs of galleries and online events that way. In April of 2021, so this year, 5 months ago, they had ceased that online programming because, and the reason widely cited that I heard was that there was not enough funding to continue that programming. And so community members came to the Arts and Culture Commission meetings to demand that the city of Santa Ana continue to fund art in Santa Ana. And through those calls to action by the community members, the Art Walk Ad Hoc Subcommittee was formed. Originally, our goal was just to basically figure out what we can do to save Art Walk. Several months into when we were doing our research, in July was actually announced that Downtown Inc. was going to continue that programming. And so our goals had to shift at that point. And so we could not basically fill that void. We couldn't offer suggestions to fill the void of Art Walk specifically as run by Downtown Inc. And so that's why our recommendations are such that the citizens, the residents, the local artists of Santa Ana build out what arts events in Santa Ana look like, whether they're called Art Walk or otherwise.
One other additional note, just both Commissioner Vu and Commissioner Hernandez implied a little bit, is that when Downtown Inc. goes to the police department for the permit, the city of Santa Ana often will issue a permit for multiple months in one go. So for instance, this needs to be confirmed, but I believe when Downtown Inc. went in August or probably July, they probably got a permit to host Art Walk on those first Saturday dates for 6 months. And so back to the idea that we can't have conflicting events. If somebody did want to launch their own version of Art Walk on the same night, they would have to apply for a permit. And then at that point, Bill McGovern, who would probably approve the permit, might want to consult the city manager, for instance, because if the name was conflicting and the date was conflicting, right, he wouldn't want to approve two at the same time. So that's sort of where the, if there was going to be some sort of change in the status of this event, that would be very important to understand.
Yeah, thank you. That information was very helpful.
Commissioner Gallegos has his hand. You have a question, Commissioner Gallegos?
Yeah, I just again, it's kind of going off of what Leonel was talking about. I just want to be clear. Downtown Santa Ana Art Walk, or the Saturday Art Walk, it is run by a company called Downtown Inc. Is that correct? Okay, up to this point. And the way that it's been funded has been through essentially that area in downtown. They have grants, they have donations, and they also have like self-imposed tax for that area. Is that correct? Now, what happened from then until now? What happened? Have they stopped receiving donations? Have they stopped receiving grants? Have they stopped collecting these kind of self-imposed taxes from the businesses and also parking structures? And that's why they're unable to continue downtown Art Walk, or what's going on?
Commissioner Russell, you want to? All right, I can go.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So from what our understanding, and again, that this is kind of shared by Ryan Smoller from Downtown Inc. when he came to the commission and presented that because of the closures and just the impacts, economic impacts of the pandemic and the shutdown, that they're ultimately their ability to get funds in a variety of ways was hurt. They didn't go into incredible detail of it, but as far as my interpretation of it, they let it be known that because of some actions by the city, that they were unable to, or perhaps were going to be unable to continue to do the art project. That was my interpretation of the presentation. And yeah, as I mentioned, the parking structure funds, which when it's busy is substantial, we're part of those funds, but they don't just rely on those funds, and nor the bid funds. They are a nonprofit. They are not a company, to be clear. So they receive donations and grants from private individuals and also large foundations that do art and other types of events.
But Commissioner Gallegos, if I can also respond, your lack of clarity is shared by us. When Ryan Smolar presented, I forget the exact date, but it was following the April publication in the Voice of OC, so probably May. It was very unclear to us how Art Walk is funded. Even looking at some of their budget information that's available online, you just didn't seem like we could draw lines between, sources of funding and how funding was spent. But I think maybe while that's a concern, I think the larger concern was really that Downtown Inc.'s promotion of Art Walk or development of Art Walk was not in favor of artists. That there were concerns that an art walk that didn't pay artists, for instance, to participate or be involved, to say pay musicians, that was a huge concern. And so that's something that we wanted to highlight and sort of emphasize, that future art walks or arts events, since we obviously cannot control the organization of Downtown Inc.'s version, that they do make sure that artists are paid, artists are involved, artists have a say in how things are organized. I will note that the current inception of Art Walk, for instance, the last one that I attended didn't have like live music like it had before. And so we're starting to see some of these elements that were so important to the original, like why Art Walk became so big, attracting thousands of people with no advertisement really, that those things are missing now. And so I think that the community was right in calling attention to it before, and we're still right to be concerned that, is this the best imagination for this event? And if not, we hope that other artists and community members will organize events according to our vision.
Okay, so I guess from also what I'm understanding from, I guess the information that I'm gathering is, do you guys envision the Arts and Culture Commission or the city taking over Art Walk? Okay, no, you're thinking of creating a new event?
I don't believe the ACC, this commission, has the oversight, or obviously we have no funds or not very many funds. So we're really not the entity. But I do want to highlight the presentation from Cynthia Lujan, who is an artist. I think she's based in Long Beach, but she also has a studio here in Santa Ana. She has helped operate and manage a variety of events, arts events in Long Beach. And, Commissioner Vu, chime in here if you have other memories about this, but she really kind of shed light on the idea that you don't want the city to operate an event like Art Walk. It introduces all kinds of new challenges, and they're not necessarily good ones. Really what you want is the collaboration. And I think what we heard loud and clear from the community is they want that collaboration with artists. We want artists involved, and any entity that is not involving artists, paying artists, having artists in sort of management type roles, right, where they're getting to make decisions about things is concerning to us.
Okay, it says my connection's unstable. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I guess the reason why I was asking all this is because I was thinking, what kind of different avenues can we approach? Because one is obviously we can try to see, well, how can we support the artists, right? But then there's that two-pronged approach where you can say, well, if the businesses that were surrounding this event, and including the parking structure, is there a way to get funding for them the way, the CARES Act came in for like small businesses, for example? Can we approach it and do something for the businesses around? Because if we support the businesses around, they're inevitably going to support this event that they had already been supporting. However, in regards to what Cynthia Lujan was talking about, it would definitely, you would have to have this reimagining of, you do have to get all these kind of like a board of artists, because they're the ones that are going to know best, what kind of setting do I want to sell my art in? How does it look like in terms of, I shouldn't have to pay, $3,000 to enter an event that's supposed to, focus on artists, so I definitely agree. And one of the things I was going to mention about the artists is, can't we get in touch? Can we try to figure out, like, where is it that these artists shop at? There's not that many, like, let's say, art stores, right? There's GCS that we know a lot of paints, paints and all these things are sold there. So if we kind of put something there, like, hey, do you want to be part of this collective of Santa Ana artists? That way, we don't necessarily have to go door to door knocking, but we just go to the places where all of them congregate. That makes more sense to me.
I have definitely heard people talk about this very idea. And I think it's a fantastic idea. I hope somebody launches it, but I do think, and please ad hoc members chime in, but we don't want the city managing that necessarily. We really want it to be that grassroots. But I do believe the city should, if the city wants to see events like Art Walk and other events happen, then the city really needs to take responsibility to help support those. So I agree completely there.
So I suggest that we can do some things to bring our new commissioners up to speed. Perhaps one of the ad hoc committee could meet with them to just give them more context. To summarize what I've heard tonight is Art Walk is out of the purview of the city. We're making recommendations to the city about the way and encouraging artists to activate the community in many events and come bring it in. And hopefully maybe some of the granting that we're going to do will provide the funding to artists to be able to activate the community and get the permits and the licensing and all of that. But right now, Art Walk technically is out of our purview. I mean, we can advise and we can encourage and support, but we don't have any control over what's happening. So that said, I think it would be good to, though, the one thing we can't control would be that artist registry. So I'd like to call for an ad hoc committee on that to activate that. And I'd like to know who would like to help develop that.
Pravin, do you mind me asking what exactly would that look like?
So I guess that's like this ad hoc committee did some great research. They talked to multiple things. I think it would also look at what has been done before, like they've said, because there are some artist registries that have been created. and looking at what would it take? Because again, I want to underscore what Commissioner Russell said. We are very lucky to be able to be getting $1 million of things to activate the arts community in recovery efforts. But in terms of sustainable funding for the Arts and Culture Commission, that's a whole nother thing we have to work on, because we got funding for the first 5 years of our Arts and Culture Master Plan, but we don't have funding for the next 5 years to keep the office sustainable and to do this kind of work that requires money and time. So even down to the staffing, like asking Tram's office to manage that is not quite as intense as say managing Art Walk, but it's a big ask. So we got to figure out sustainable funding, which is another conversation, hopefully, but not on the agenda tonight. So in order to move along, we can create this ad hoc committee who can brainstorm and then make a presentation back to the community at large about what are our findings, what are our recommendations about what this could look like. Is that fair, Tram?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm game if there's a need.
Okay, so we can have up to 3, or is it 4? Wait, no more than 3 commissioners at a time, because we don't want to break the Williams Act. So,
I would be glad to be a part of this, but definitely I would feel comfortable if, someone who's had a little more experience or had any experience in this kind of thing, just like Deborah. But yeah, thank you. I'd love to be a part of it.
all right, looks like Commissioner Gallegos, Commissioner Russell. Is there a third commissioner who would like to volunteer? No pressure. Commissioner Vu.
I've been on way too many commissions. I'm tapping out of this one now.
All right, so Commissioner Vu, Commissioner Gallegos, and Commissioner Russell, we're going to turn that over to you and look forward to you coming back to help us, because it appears to me, and confirm if please correct me if I'm wrong, that's the starting point, is to know who's in our community, and then we can help activate them. Even with the RFPs and all the things that we are going to be putting out. So it's going to be important for us to have that database. All right. Does that complete our presentation on the first item, Art Walk report? All right, moving on to the second item tonight. It's the South Main Public Art Initiative panel review. So I believe that's going to be led by Tram.
Yes, let's get to it. First, okay, I'm going to share my screen. Let me see, hold on. Oh, let me see. Oh, there it is. All right, everybody see that? All right, so just to give a background, give some context, and for those who are just joining us or just need a little refresher, the South Main Street Corridor Project is what we're focused on. It's a 2.5-mile enhancement project along South Main between First Street and Dyer Street. And the construction for the project has already started and will continue through May 2022. The proposed improvements that they began doing throughout the entire corridor is really like delineating parking spaces, tree planters, new bus shelters, ADA curb ramps, Edwardian style street lighting, and pavement rehabilitation. Those were their original plans. But they do have a focus area in the north from First Street to Chestnut Avenue, and in the south from Stanford Street to St. Andrew Place. And these two focus areas are improvements include sidewalk extensions, enhanced crosswalks, delineated parking spaces, street trees and landscaping, concrete intersections, sidewalk furniture, monument signage, and decorative string lighting. The project also includes sewer and water line improvements. But in starting, a while ago, the city was encouraged to involve artists as part of this enhancement project. And so they turned to artists to participate in the South Main Public Arts Initiative to incorporate art within this South Main Street Corridor project. And so the Public Works Agency wanted to partner with the Arts and Culture Commissioners, which are you, to integrate art into the community's daily life. And at our regular meeting back in April, Public Works did do a whole presentation on this street corridor project, and they requested that the Arts Commissioners review, rate, and rank the proposals submitted by the public to this arts initiative as part of the construction project. And then staff from both Community Development Agency and Public Works Agency collaborated to develop the RFP for this initiative. And then the commissioners were asked to evaluate the proposals, artistic merit, and Public Works staff will then, after our meeting today, will be given to them to determine which proposals to accept based on its feasibility. And that includes budget, timeline, placement, all of that, okay? So before we start, do you have any quick questions? Or can we get to the ratings? No, okay. So the first location, so I've broken this up into 3 locations, and then I added the applications where the applicants themselves indicated where they wanted to apply for their design. Okay, so this is totally from their application. So the first location we're going to look at is Main and Pine parking lot, which looks like this kind of shape. Okay. And I'm going to go from the lowest score to the highest score. So the first applicant that was rated is Jose Trejo Maya. His the final average score is 50 out of 100 total possible. This is the design. Let me read from his application what his description of his project. Transparencies in time. Kwapohwali embedded in ethnopoetic language poetry. It's a sculptural piece and public art exhibition at the same time, with the basic framework of individual plastic transparency films of concrete poems that will be built into 3 distinct works. So now I'd like to open it up to the commissioners. If you have any comments, if you don't, we will just move on. Any comments? No?
I do
Okay.
have a comment,
Yes.
just a really brief one. I really admired this project in particular because of the way it preserves indigenous languages, especially ones that are indigenous languages die every day because of the ongoing colonialism from multiple countries, including our own. And I really admired that. And my comments specifically to this one really highlighted that as well. This one was just unfortunately a little bit confusing and possibly not fully feasible to actually enact.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move forward. This next one, the applicant is California Leonardo da Vinci Institute of Discovery. Final average score is 56.7. Their description of their project is to transition the parking lot at South Main and Pine into a multimedia event center that centers around the creation of large cinema screen and creation of film festivals and other events like Food and Film Festival. Film posters affixed to walls spotlight various luminaries and their influence on American film, whether it be guitars or basketball. Any comments?
I would like to comment that I thought this was a very ambitious, really theoretically, it's incredible. My concern is who's going to manage it once we get all those things in to manage films and the ways to activate it, because we can create it, but then there has to be the whole management thing. So that was my question about it, but artistically, it's a really amazing concept. And really from an economic standpoint to activate things. But anyway, that's.
I want to comment as well. I love the idea about taking a parking lot and making it into a space where families might come and interact. But I think it would be so infrequent, right? Even if it was every single Saturday, it wasn't an art piece that maybe people would understand or be able to interact with on a more frequent basis. And then I think also sometimes we have to weigh a project based on the sustainability over time. And I was very concerned about so much white, this wall of just white. And I know there were comments made about how that could be maintained, but in contrast with other projects, I have to say that was something that really stood out as a concern.
I did want to make the comment that I was really happy to see something of this scale being proposed, because if you think about like the greatest cities in the world, it's because they are very ambitious. You got to think really, really big first, and then you can let civics kind of whittle it down. But it's best to start large. So I really do appreciate this this project a lot.
Anyone else? Oh,
Yeah,
just say.
I echo, just the comments of other folks that are saying that, it's just a lot. And yeah, we wish we could, but it's, we're having a hard time with the current projects as is. Unfortunately, just don't have the funding for it, or the balance between trying to give funding for a lot of different artists as opposed to giving all of our funding to just one project.
Okay, very constructive feedback. I think that's great feedback. Okay, anybody else, or we're going to move forward?
Sorry, I did want to mention really quick, just the first project. I did want to say I had the same trouble as Indigo, just because I appreciated the idea, but I just felt like I could not conceptualize what exactly, it's a very kind of small rendering, and I didn't know how it would look physically on a particular, physical piece.
Yeah, true. You didn't see the whole thing laid out. Okay. And you're talking about this application, right? Jose Trejo Mayas?
Very correct, yes.
Okay. I'm trying to move it forward. Okay. Next one is Marina, the applicant is Marina Aguilera. Final average score is 65.8 out of 100. Marina's description is this art project works hand in hand with Main Street. It will work beautifully with the aesthetics of this new bus shelter, as well brings in the beloved icon that all Santa Ana residents appreciate and connect to. This art is for all residents of this wonderful city to enjoy. Comments?
Just to say thank you to Marina for applying, because the artwork that she always proposes is very iconic in our community. So having this as part of our Main Street installations would definitely enhance our community, if that's possible. If it's possible to get these installed.
And I had a comment as well for Marina, and this was like a recurring thing that I saw amongst a lot of applications, proposals, is that while the idea is beautiful and gorgeously rendered here, as someone who also works a lot with budgets in my day job, for me, I am not at all against having artist fees as part of a proposal, but it is sometimes a red flag to see a proposal where the entirety of the amount given or requested is in artist fees, because I worry then about the sustainability of that as well. What if that means that the artist then has to put out their own money for this project because there wasn't enough in that budget for materials to make sure that this could be carried out well? And so I recommend that it is broken down at least into expense categories, into transportation, into materials, into installation, and so on and so forth, just to make it clear how much of it is going to be funded from the amount granted.
Good feedback. Anyone else? Okay. Next applicant is Roger Eyes R. Final average score is 66 out of 100. Roger's description is, here comes the music. The production of 4 2D plexiglass silhouettes statues dancing to the classic tunes coming from around the block. John's Black Derby, each in a different color. This project includes a new 4 feet by 6 feet sign to be installed at Main and Pine parking lot.
I think this was a really cool like photo op. The one thing I kept thinking about is something that's so slender, so tall. I could just see it as a magnet for, you know, vandalism. Unfortunately, I could just see someone just coming and trying to, boom, just snap it just because. And that's the only thing that I couldn't, you know, I couldn't figure out a solution besides putting, like, let's say a gate around it or something of that sort, and it would really deter what the, you know, what it looks.
Or different material, because this is made of plexiglass.
Yeah. A lot of artists use plexiglass. I was surprised. Leonel or Commissioner Flores?
Yeah, so I actually like the concept of this artwork as well. For me, the concern that came to my mind was if there were going to be any other features to go along with it, so people would understand that the figures were dancing, because just based on the artwork, you know, if they're going to be static, I wasn't too sure if people were going to be associate those images or those figures with the jazz music that he was mentioning in his description. So maybe if like adding some more features to the element, I think that would help it a lot.
I agree, but I do love the originality of it. And I love, as you're kind of pointing out, Commissioner Gallegos, that you might be able to interact with this piece and actually have questions like, who are these people? Where are they going? And I just want to commend him for sort of capturing that sense of creativity and wonder. I think that's what really, that's the art I always go back to, is the ones, and my children, that's the kind of art they want to see is, oh, I can go inside, I can walk around it. And so I hope we see more proposals like that in the future.
Anyone else?
One last comment from me, and I did not put this in my comments to the proposal on submittable, but looking at this rendering now, I'm noticing that these sculptures are installed directly onto the sidewalk, and that does raise a little bit of like accessibility concerns for me. In terms of what if there are like folks who use wheelchairs, folks who have strollers, how easy is it for people to navigate around those places if it's not, yeah, at least in the parking lot, at least away if it's on the sidewalk itself.
That's very true. They have the ADA component. Anyone else? Okay. Moving forward. Next applicant is Sophia Lee. Final average score is 72.5 out of 100. Sophia's description is, this is a wave transport rack concept that will be beautiful for the city and is multi-user friendly. In encouraging more people to get out of their cars, city planning usually put up a very plain bike rack. This design will add color and give users a choice. It can park all types of vehicles, including shared scooters, small-sized bikes, odd-shaped transports.
I wanted to say that I really liked this one a lot. I like the ideas, the concepts behind it, the fact that it makes a heart shape, you know, in the shadow. It's incredible. But I think one of the biggest things that I was drawn to was the fact of really her notoriety, because the pieces that she has, you know, installed in other cities, you know, I think of people who they gather all around, like the Hearts in San Francisco, or these places where they have those kinds of pieces. So to kind of have that kind of notoriety here in Santa Ana, I feel it does kind of, you know, catapult the city, you know, just a little bit higher. But I did have a question about, the budget. She had marked that it was 18,000, and I think that when we were looking at the budget, I think it was around 30,000. So I had a real misunderstanding in terms of, what exactly is this going to cost? So that was my biggest thing. And I also did appreciate the fact that she wanted to say, hey, let's meet at the Orange Rack, or that was really neat to me.
I do want to, I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Gallegos, because I do want to encourage that whole getting out of your cars, connecting, communing, and having these spaces and places. And this one is so delightfully playful and provides a lot of opportunities for that. And it's a great consideration. And if I recall, having things spaced out so that you don't have to worry about your being so far away from different places to go visit. So.
Anyone else? Okay, move forward. Oops. Next applicant is, Marina Aguilera. Final average score is 73 out of 100. Marina's description is, this art project is meant to celebrate the Latinos of Santa Ana and their many contributions to this area, working hard in the California Sugar Company, both historically and in modern times. This tile art sculpture is to be placed on the corner of Pine and Main Street. Its placement will renovate the older slate rock structure that currently stands.
I think Marina's work is beautiful. I mean, everything that she submitted really, to me, I was like, wow, this is beautiful. I think this was a good submission in terms of, feasibility, because we did see the other project that was, I think, the budget was around 463,000, where, as to far as what Jose, I'm sorry if I didn't say your name correctly. He was saying that we need to think about whether we are going to look at funding one particular project or multiple little ones, and I know we don't do the funding itself, but the city is going to come and look at that, right? So I think that this was a good, I think it's beautiful. It's a wonderful way to beautify that area, but not necessarily kind of take all of the budget, My only question with this is in the rendering, she like beautified the exterior, they have like that talavera kind of tile with like the plants, and I thought, so is that going to be part of the actual the artwork, or is it just going to be just the tile stone?
I believe it'll probably be just tile stone. She does make a note of that in another description, how the plants around are just to enhance, she put it in to enhance the design, but that it doesn't include the plants. That's what she said somewhere else. So I'm assuming that that's her frame of mind.
Trump, I believe Commissioner Flores has his hand raised.
Yes, Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, so I agree. This is a really beautiful piece, and I think it would be a great addition if it does get selected. I had one suggestion or comment, I guess, I would like to make about the piece, is that I just wish it incorporated a little bit more of the theming provided within the application, just with all the different options there was. So I would have liked it to incorporate a little more of the theming. And then
the
theming, provide like the different theming options.
Oh.
Yeah, or like specifically, like in this instance, it's a lot of floral artwork within it. So I was hoping maybe, they could have incorporated the jacaranda tree or the flower, which other projects did. Then I think that would have tied it into what the city is going for, like perfectly. That's aside from that, like this is a really beautiful piece, So I guess what I'm trying to say is I wish they would have incorporated the theming a little more. And then concerns that I have for this one is just kind of knowing the neighborhood and area it's in. I'm a little worried about vandalism and stuff like that. So hopefully, however it's constructed is very durable, just because of the area it's gonna be in. I know it's sometimes not the safest area per se, but I think it's a really great piece, and I'd be happy to see that if it were selected.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? No.
Tram, I
Okay.
have a general
Yes.
question about the maintenance of a lot of these pieces that were submitted. I know that she had said that the tile was gonna, it has a particular coating on it to kind of protect against graffiti.
Mhm.
Now, is it something that if it gets vandalized, is this something that the city goes ahead and takes care of and they remove that graffiti?
Yes. Yeah. Particularly because it's on city property. So the city will take care of that. But that is a great point to bring up. And that's part of that feasibility assessment. Is this going to attract so much graffiti or, tagging or whatever, or vandalism? That is a point to be taken into consideration. Some of the criteria that was in the RFP was to submit a design that didn't have places for people to hide behind or stuff like that. So all of that will be taken into consideration too. Okay, any other comments? All right.
Sorry, just one more.
Yes.
I was going to say there was a police officer that we were talking to who we would always see this kind of corner get tagged. And what he said is, we're going to clean this up for you, right? And they said, if it happens tomorrow, call us again and call us again and call us again. He goes, usually it only takes 3 or 4 days of us repainting a surface, and they will not graffiti there anymore, because you have to realize that the people picking up these spray paint cans, they can be expensive for people. So once they run out of those kinds of funds, they're going to move on to a different area.
If they know that there's eyes on that area. Exactly. Okay, next applicant is Alicia Rojas. Final average score is 80 out of 100. Alicia's description is: preserving history through public art and community engagement is the goal for this South Main Public Arts Initiative proposal, highlighting the agricultural history of Santa Ana and Orange County by focusing on its sugar beets farming and sugar factory, showcasing historical black and white pictures while adding modern and bold color illustrations that tell one of the many stories that South Main holds, making this proposal a true placemaking public art project by adding QR codes for community engagement for bus riders to learn a little more history of the street and place they are currently at. Comments?
I really love the educational aspect of this, and I really admire the use of actual images and photos from Santa Ana's history as well. My biggest question is that there are 12 images, and I don't believe there are 12 bus shelters right there. So I was confused as to which ones would be chosen and where they would be placed. That was my biggest thing.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that either, in terms of, definitely there's one bus shelter that Public Works is considering, which is one they advertised, but I believe they're also revamping a lot of the bus shelters. So is this to be considered all along South Main? It's a possibility.
I love how it feels like I'm visiting the history room, the Santa Ana history room, through these images, and that it really highlights an aspect of the old Santa Ana, right? This area that we forget it was an agricultural hub, and so in addition to just I just love the images of the beets as these circles. I just think it's just so beautiful, the colors and the shape. But I love this idea that you can become proud of this place you live as you start to understand the layers of history that have been here. So great job. And again, the QR code interaction piece, I forget if she said she was going to collaborate with the Santa Ana History Room, but I just imagine there could be so many different ways for this to evolve, and it has a lot of potential to be more than just a bus shelter.
I just wanted to underscore both what Commissioner Vu and Commissioner Russell said. I think it's the historical aspect and really the tie into history and keeping us all aware of what, you know, what we've built this city on and our history and roots is so critical. So, and what a great way to tie the beats and the roots, right? So thank you for this proposal.
Ma'am, I have a question. I know that in the, is it called the RFP? I'm sorry, what does that stand for?
Request for proposal.
Okay, so I think one of the things that it says is it wasn't supposed to have any kind of like logos or trademarks or anything like that. Now, do any of these, would they fall under that category? I mean, aside from just the beats alone?
That's a great question. I'm not sure about, it could be, sometimes certain images have passed like so many years, it's been around for like songs where it becomes public domain. So it is possible that some of these images are in public domain, or they belong to, let's say, the history room, and then we would have to get rights to that. But you're correct about trademarks and recognizable trademarks. But that would be something for us to look into if we move forward with this design.
Okay, and then just lastly, I mean, I mean, I love beats for one thing, but the other thing is I was thinking, especially because of the way kind of society is moving forward, you know, if we are going to be advertising a company, particularly, especially in a place that has like immigrant roots and whatnot, and you're talking about like farming, you know, we have to consider what kind of company this was. You know, do we want to be part of the commission that puts this on, you know, on like a city kind of funded thing? Like we need to also consider that as well. I don't know anything about this company, but it's just something that I was thinking about.
That's a fantastic point.
Yeah, that's definitely something to consider. Okay. Any other comments? These are all great points. Okay, moving on. And the final application for this location is from Joy Fire. Final average score is 84.2 out of 100. Joy's description is a solar-powered jacaranda tree shaped sculpture with a bench, USB port charging outlets, and a router to provide free Wi-Fi.
My comment for this one was the rendering, the actual drawing. It looks incredible, and it's you wouldn't know exactly what mediums this artist would be using. However, I did see what the artist did have as examples of working with you know, the material that this artist is proposing, and I noticed that the drawing and the actual sculpture, they would look quite different in terms of the trees that this artist has made. So I'm wondering about the end product. It looks very different from a drawing. So that's what I'm concerned about only on this. I love the functionality. I love the fact that it's solar powered, that it also has jacaranda. I love this whole idea. I think it's great, but that is one of my concerns.
Yeah, the samples that Joy provided, right, tend to be more iron, wrought iron, single color. So yeah, that is something that we would need to have a discussion with her if Public Works selects this.
I really enjoyed this idea of like increasing access, right? Throughout this pandemic, we've really seen technology be something that's so crucial, and particularly access to internet and like places to charge your devices is not something that should be seen as a luxury anymore. It is a utility for, by and large, most people who live in the city. And I really, really appreciated that. My concern was just the upkeep with particularly the outlets and the chargers, because especially in an outdoor area, whether it's from the weather or from dust that blows in, or if water splashes on it, how do we make sure that this is continuing to function in the way that it's supposed to, rather than losing that functionality that's so crucial to it?
I want to concur there. Again, when I first opened up Submittable and was looking at the projects, I just didn't expect anything like this. And so I want to commend the artists for really thinking in new ways. And when it comes to accessibility, as Commissioner Review raised, I live in an area where a lot of people who are unhoused are in desperate need of a place to charge. And so it really struck me as this becomes a place where they don't have to feel ashamed or, yelled at for using a home, the outlet attached to a home or something like that. So I really appreciate that part, but I think it makes more sense in a place maybe that could be a little bit maintained or has, but being on Main Street itself, I'm very worried that how long would this last as a usable structure in the way it's envisioned?
What do you all think if the USB Wi-Fi component was taken away? Just this sculpture as an art piece.
I personally think it would lose a tremendous part of the value of this, because the reason why this is so incredible is because not only is it art, it's functional art. And to Russell, to Deborah's point, and to some of the other commissioners, it's a lot of these, whether they're unhoused or whoever wants to go by and use them. I think that's incredible. One thing I did want to mention, I've installed exterior outlets before, and there are some very strong outlets that they aren't exposed. What it is, it's a cap, and that cap, it flips right down. So there are possible solutions to something like this.
I think Commissioner Gallegos said it well. To me, the most important part of this proposal is actually the functionality of it, and the aesthetics of it only serve to enhance it. If it was aesthetic only, I probably wouldn't have given it as high a score as I did, actually.
I concur if you're looking for an overall consensus about that.
Mm-hmm. About removing the
Yeah.
USB. Okay. Anyone else? We have 32 seconds left on this. All right, moving forward. So the next, next location is Main and McFadden Landscape. I kind of wanted to get back there. My computer has been very slow all day. So this is that strip of landscaping right there. It has a bus stop in front somewhere here. I can't tell from this aerial view, but there is also a private business behind here, and there's a chain link fence that goes across this length. Okay. So the first application is Jose Trejo Maya again. Do you have anything more to say about this application, or can we move forward?
Tram, I just wanted to say that I kind of was embarrassed of even giving my opinions, because I'm like, I already wrote in the application, but then I realized, you know what, these artists are also trying to figure out why was this, why didn't they move forward with this? So I think feedback is really important for these artists too, because they want to get projects like this. They want to have these opportunities. So I think it's important for us to let them know, why it maybe worked or why it maybe didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Very true. I appreciate that. But perhaps you've said what you wanted to say about this particular applicant, so we'll move forward. Okay, next applicant is Ying Yang Wing. Final average score is 51.7 out of 100. Ying Yang's description is, our idea is to create a 4 feet wide jacaranda flower sculpture as a seating area for those who are waiting for the bus or would like to rest and enjoy a relaxing day. Extending from the end of the flower will be its stem rising to 6 feet tall upwards, and attached to the stem will be a 4 feet wide leaf above the jacaranda flower to provide shelter against the sun or rain. Thoughts?
I think for me, part of it was that this was not drawn to scale, and so I was not entirely sure what the proportions of the final project might be. It was proposed to be 6 feet tall, But looking at where the height of the leaf is, that's not 6 feet. My concern was also with the functionality of this as a sitting area, if it would actually be able to be used by folks with that particular shape. I'm not sure that would be comfortable to sit on.
I also have to confess, I had a bit of a hard time imagining what it could possibly look like based on the designs. And so in the interest of making sure artists have feedback they can use for future proposals, it was very hard to sort of imagine what this would look like. And then I did feel like it was a bit of a repetition from the bus shelter, because it's not a replacement for the bus shelter. Is that correct?
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. So I saw it as an addition to the bus shelter, and I thought, well, yes, seating is always more welcome, but it didn't feel like it was sort of adding some new element to this space. And that's what I was looking for.
One thing I wanted to add, in some of these proposals, including this one, there were, because they have to submit kind of their prior work, and some of the things that I was seeing is either something that lacked this kind of scale of work, in terms of experience, or what I saw was a lot of like, let's say a design or a concept, but I never saw an end product, not necessarily about what they're proposing, but in their other projects. So it led me to believe, like, I don't know if they could necessarily execute this. So that's one of the things that I think that artists should also include in their portfolios.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Trent, I just have a general question also. Will the artists who submitted be receiving the written comments that we put in?
Yes, usually when we do, well, I think we're kind of debating about this, and it would be at the end, after Public Works makes the final decision, then we would give feedback that way. And I think actually we're moving towards if they request it, so if anybody comes to us and says why, either way, I'm curious. I got a high score, but I'm curious what some of the comments were. Then we will give it that way.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Okay. Next one is Sophia Lee. Final average score is 64.2 out of 100. Sophia's description is spiral path. I want to create an installation as a meeting point for residents. It's a placemaker to gather or be alone. I hope the colorful glass will create a little contemplative space, but it can be active and be a spot for photo op as well. It'll add lots of color to the South Main Street.
I thought it was beautiful, the idea, everything about it. It's just in terms of functionality, once you get to the end, really only 2 people can use it. So that was my biggest concern. And then, not to mention, of course, budget. I was also thinking about that.
Commissioner Flores.
I agree with Commissioner Gallegos. I had a few concerns with the feasibility, just because I happen to live pretty close to this location, and sadly, it's very close to a high gang traffic area. So when it comes to feasibility, like you mentioned, one of the requirements is like not obstructing the view and things like that. And I just thought, this could potentially be dangerous, even though I think it's a great and amazing idea that, if we could do, I think the community would benefit from it. But in terms of feasibility, it didn't seem like too feasible to me, sadly, even though I really did like this proposal.
Part of that too is that I'm not sure that the strip of land right there has enough space for a structure of this size. It would take up almost the entire width of the strip, And I'm not sure where the access points would be at that point.
Yeah, if anything, this might be more appropriate in the parking lot, if, you know, we were to consider it. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move forward. But before we move forward, you know what? It completely slipped my mind that Chair McNair had recused herself from a few applications. So, you won't see her on video or hear her speak for the following applications. Any application from UCI School of Education and Faces of Santa Ana, she has recused herself. Any applications from Roger Eyes R and application from Diane Navarro. And she did not submit any scores either. So, okay, next is Marina Aguilera. Score 65.8 out of 100. And we had already discussed this, but if you'd like to speak some more. Yes, Commissioner Flores.
I guess in just a brief comment I wanted to make related, similar to I think another piece of work. I do think this is really beautiful and iconic, but I also wish they incorporated more of the theming we provided for them. So I think it's also another missed opportunity where they could have incorporated the theming. But aside from that, I do think this is a very beautiful piece of art.
Just as a follow-up, I'm sorry if I misunderstood the assignment, but I thought that part of it was that they can either refer to the culture here in Santa Ana, and also they can refer to the history. Is that correct, or is it
Correct.
only jacaranda trees? And okay, so it would include this as well.
Yes, I mean they could. We highly recommended that they submitted something that referenced something historical along that street, but it was not mandatory.
But I want to point out, it was very clear which artists kind of did homework and really tried to incorporate, the ability to learn through the art. And so I just want to commend all the artists who took that effort. And I mean, I learned things like, that I didn't know about my own city, and I've lived here my whole life. So it's just really, I commend those artists who took those extra efforts, not only being creative, but also doing that work.
Okay, any other comments? No, we'll move forward. Next applicant is the UCI School of Education and Faces of Santa Ana, a score of 68 out of 100. And their description is, this project is a bus stop design. This project is a bus stop designed for children and families to play the popular game Loteria. Is that the one? Yes, okay, Loteria. We will work with local families to decide on images that are culturally centered and promote early learning. Comments?
Again, I think any kind of art that's interactive this way, I think it's brilliant. I think it gets conversations going. I think it, I used to take the bus literally like every single day for school, and then even when I started going to Santa Ana College, I was taking the bus. So kind of just waiting there. Yes, you have the opportunity to talk to your friends, but I think right now in this day and age where everyone's kind of always looking at their cell phone, it would be nice to have something that's interactive like that on the wall. My comment to this artist was, however, is we need to ensure that there would be some kind of like, I don't know, a plexiglass or something in front of basically the least amount touch that these people can break or vandalize, the better. And I think that this was a great idea.
I think the intention was to interact with it, is to flip those cards and play with it. So yeah, I don't think it's just a graphic print. They're actual movable pieces. But I hear you. What if people start breaking those pieces? But it could be kind of like a playground, when they have those plastic, tic-tac-toes or whatever too.
Yeah, I definitely love the interactivity of this piece. But given that there's so many moving parts, there is that much more upkeep to have then, because from what I understand, you should be able to flip them or rotate the pieces and then also spin the wheel. And I just think that's a lot of moving parts for a highly trafficked area.
Anyone else? Okay, moving forward. Next one is also by UCI School of Education and Faces of Santa Ana with the score of 72 out of 100. Their description is, this school is a bus stop that uses a memory matching game to have children practice their memory and spatial skills while they wait for the bus. Through the icons, they will also be learning about local iconic figures, cultural foods, and other historical elements relevant to Santa Ana.
And I believe you're one slide too far.
Yeah.
You're on the
I
advocacy.
know. This is so frustrating. My computer. There we go. So sorry. So this one had a score of 68. Comments or same?
Yes, you know, I love the interactive nature of it. Being someone with kids, I could easily see how when you're waiting and the bus is late or something, you know, it gives you something you can do and have conversations. But there was some element to that that I felt like it was in contrast with some of the other projects where they were really designing something new. They were helping me think in a new way. And so I just really appreciated that. And I felt like, while I love the child-centeredness of these, I wanted something new to look at and inspire me.
I wanted to say that the only thing that I kept thinking about these, I love the interaction. I just kept thinking about, we're living in a COVID world. And I'm like thinking, so many people are going to be touching this. But then I also thought, well, kids are always touching everything. So you can't really, you can't really monitor that too much. I think this was amazing. In regards to Commissioner Russell, what she was saying, I have seen these in like parks before, where they have like the X's and O's, and you're playing tic-tac-toe. So, I was just kind of like thinking in terms of how has do you know anything about those particular, like how have they fared? Have they fared well? Like, are they constantly being vandalized, or any info on them?
I mean, like in the parks, I don't have that information.
You know, that's a great comment. And actually, I think there's some tagging on them, but I think it's fairly minimal. Not that it doesn't interfere, at least in the parks I visited around the city.
Any other comments? Okay, moving forward is the abacus finally here. And this one also by UCI School of Education and Faces of Santa Ana. Final score is 72 out of 100. Their description is the abacus bus stop that allows children and family to develop their math skills, counting and arithmetic through playful learning while they wait for the bus.
This proposal for me, in contrast to the other proposals from this applicant, it didn't really seem to feature anything, especially historical or cultural, about Santa Ana here. And so it left some of that creativity to me.
I did want to mention, I did see that that it didn't have anything historical. However, I was thinking this was the only one that I can think of any of the art pieces that was submitted that people who are, blind or on that spectrum, they can interact with this. And I felt like this was something that, those people are always kind of looked over, unfortunately, because you think, oh, they're the minority. But when that is your reality, that you aren't the minority, you are that person. So I like this project for that. The only thing I could say is an abacus is a very old thing, and I barely know what it is, so I don't know how to use it. But I guess this bus stop would give me the opportunity to learn. So
Yeah, hopefully, if they go with it, to have some instructions on the side. Anyone else? Okay, moving forward. All right, Sophia Lee again. Any further comments about it? But this one on the Maina McFadden landscape. Okay, now we'll move forward. Okay, and then the UCI School of Education Faces of Santa Ana with a score of 75 out of 100. Their description is, this mural will utilize the classic game I Spy for children and families to make observations and find hidden elements in a painted mural. We will also work with local families to create a theme that is relevant to Santa Ana culturally and historically. He did tell me that this is a placeholder image and that it's not necessarily this image, but the idea of it.
yeah, this one, I think what I read is that he wanted to get in touch with like the local community and see what they would think would be important to kind of make on this mural. I think this is an incredible one just because, you know, young, old, it doesn't matter. You can all get involved, you know, everyone likes, if they're sitting waiting for something, you're like, I'm gonna pass the time and I'm gonna look, you know? So I think this is a great way to interact, also to address the whole COVID situation. You don't have to touch anything. So I think it's a good idea.
Also, a caveat is that I believe the wall that they're proposing to paint this on is a privately owned wall. It's that Markets wall. So that's just another factor to consider.
The challenge for me here was, I understand the idea, but we're not seeing the actual art. And so it was hard to make a decision because, you know, we're here to make a decision about what the community will see. And I understand they want to collaborate with the community, and I appreciate that because a lot of projects did not incorporate that element. But it's just, you know, is it going to look like this? Is it going to look better, worse? We don't know.
The other thing also is that I believe this proposal actually mentioned that they would hold focus groups in order to get the imagery and the ideas for it. But having like participated in focus groups also, there's a lot of logistics to that aren't included at all in the budget. So where would this focus group take place? How would the participation focus group? What would the questions be for this focus group? What languages would this focus group be available in? Would there be honorariums for focus group participants? There's just so much here that isn't said. And just simply saying that they will hold a focus group is not necessarily full thoughtfulness that I would like to see for something like this.
Graham, I did want to ask, is there something that they can do where, like, let's say Public Works can say, hey, we approve this pending?
Yes, actually that is part of the process, is that if they do say, we like the idea of it, it's feasible, the right price is reasonable, then they would meet with the artist and discuss further. But if they can't go beyond that, if they say, well, we would like to see all these changes, or what is this? And if that, you know, if they can't come to some agreement, then they wouldn't do it. But meeting with the artist is part of the process.
Okay, because I did want to mention it kind of where some of the other the artists they lacked in like their oh gosh, I already forgot, basically their examples and their works. This is where this particular artist, they shined in terms of they've already shown this is what we've done before, this is what we've been able to do with the community involvement, with, you know, so I have a lot more confidence that this one can get this done, you know what I mean, just because of his portfolio. So
yeah. Yeah. Okay, any other comments? Okay, moving forward. And then the next one is also theirs, UCI School of Education and Faces of Santa Ana, score of 76 out of 100. This mural of Frida Kahlo will show children the proportions of a face, the steps that construct a mural face, and the geometric shapes that make a face. through a chalkboard wall below the mural, families will be able to imitate the steps on their own.
I love this one. I love Frida Kahlo, everything that she represents. However, the biggest thing that is like, I cannot see a way around the chalkboard. If you spray paint glass, if you spray paint enamel, all that stuff, you can get rid of it. If you spray paint chalkboard, I cannot see how that's going to be removed unless you replace it entirely. So that was my big thing on this one.
Also, like making sure that chalk is available also at all times. Otherwise, there's no functionality to the chalk. Even if there's no functionality to the chalkboard, even if there is no spray painting.
But I do want to comment how it's both beautiful to look at, and especially the final image, but also it has the educational and kind of the interactive aspects and the different, honoring the inclusion of Spanish language, and so great additions there.
Trent, could we offer any suggestions to that artist and saying, hey, instead of chalkboard, maybe you can use something like a dry erase board that is actually graffiti,
Resistant.
not proof, but resistant, yeah.
Yeah. This would be the time, I think. Anyone else? Okay, moving forward. Next applicant is Yapo Fabregan Art and Design, final score of 77.5 out of 100. Their description is remarkable architectural design installation created with the influence of the ancestral Hispanic pattern for the community of Santa Ana. It will highlight facts and figures that enrich the heritage of the city. Commissioner Flores?
Yeah, I think this was probably one of my favorite ones that was submitted. But in terms of, I guess, constructive criticism, I think the concept could have been a little more clearer. It took me a little bit to figure it out, but once I did figure it out, I thought it was a really cool idea.
I thought this was amazing in the concept, but I've traveled a lot to see these kinds of things, and whether it's Berlin or wherever, and those corners in those spots, they attract so much kind of drug paraphernalia, people to use them as bathrooms. It just unfortunately there are so many corners and blind spots that I think people are really going to use it in a really bad way.
In addition, does anyone else recall the material was plywood? Isn't that correct? I remember I asked somebody who works in construction, is this a material that's used and has durability? So, you're right. I think, the sketches of it are really inspiring, et cetera, but I was very concerned about not only usage, but also like how long would this stay? And I was not clear. So they had like these little historical textual details, but was that included in the design? Maybe I missed that detail, because I really appreciated the inclusion of historical information, but I couldn't quite tell how it would be represented in the actual implementation.
Commissioner Russell, they would be utilizing each one of these like yellow walls to kind of put a symbol of something that is historically relevant to this area. So like that guitar, for example, is I don't know the history of the guitar particularly, but I know it's from that area or from Santa Ana. So I think that's what they were going for.
But I mean, so, in this image, you see a lot of arrows pointing to like descriptions. And so like, for instance, in the BEAT project, there was going to be a QR code that would then lead you to that information. But I didn't understand because it was great information, but where was it going to go? Wasn't clear.
This project, this this proposal was visually extremely striking. I think one of the most striking ones that was submitted. But my concern also was with like the material use, the plywood. Also, I think there may have been a mistake in the uploading of the proposal as well, where the timeline was actually uploaded twice and no budget was provided at all. And because there was no budget provided, I couldn't really see how this would be affordable to maintain or build.
Mhm. Oh, I don't know about let me see. The budget may or may not have. But let's see, the budget may or may not have been there, but the applicant did submit a final cost.
I wanted to mention to this artist, I mean, if he ends up seeing this video, that that design of like the kind of like the Aztec printing, all that that he was talking about, that is very striking. I have seen this, obviously not this exact art, but I've seen something with like alien letters and whatnot in LA, and they do them actually on concrete walls. They're just standalone walls, and they create the same kind of visual, like, you know, it's just wow when you look at it. So, you know, if he ever wanted to do something like that, that would be an idea for him.
Yeah, so you're right, he did submit 2 timelines, but he said the amount requested was 28,000 to 34,000.
I'm also wondering on that point about budget, because many projects we looked at had very different conceptions of budget. Some were way more detailed, some were just like one figure, I think. And I almost wanted there to be like a standardized form, or at least, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 categories, you know, like Commissioner Vu was mentioning materials, so that we're really comparing apples to apples. I didn't feel like it was fair in some cases.
I agree with that because it was hard to determine, especially when they gave ranges, and some were taking an artist fee and some took a lot of artist fee, and some of the budgets were really very skeletal in terms of knowing and understanding how they were planning on using the funding.
You know, to Commissioner Russell and McNair's point, I'm curious, these artist fees that are, you know, they're very much included. Is it something that these artists would be willing to like negotiate, or is this just something of like, this is my flat rate and that is it? Because if that's the case, then it kind of changes whether or not something can be funded or not, or will be funded.
Yeah, you're right. I believe that would come, you know, during the interview when Public Works meets with them. And if it's not negotiable and it can't be funded, then it won't be funded. But yes, I think those are good suggestions. In the future, we could try to add a template. We do that for the artist grant. We add a budget template. But because artist grants tend to be for emerging artists too, and so that's when we help out with a template. But usually public arts of a certain scale, we assume that the artist is familiar with how budget works and looks. If you're going to be working on a larger scale with, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. So, but we, as you've seen, there are lots of lower figures. So I do think in the future, if we anticipate that happening, we should include a template, a budget template. Okay, any other? If not, we'll move forward. Okay, next applicant is Wendy Yung. Final average score is 79.2 out of 100. Wendy's description is inspirational, multilingual, colorful acrylic signs attached to bus stops. Yes,
I want to acknowledge that I thought, you know, the idea itself is not that necessarily like innovative necessarily, but I thought she took really good care in her description, particularly to describe things like how the material she used was very intentional so that the light could come through and create, I think she described stained glass kind of interaction. And so I just want to acknowledge that for the artists out there who are listening, when you do add those sorts of details, it really brings to life a project that on its surface, you know, we might be like, well, you know, not that innovative. So amazing work there.
Yeah, I wanted to commend this artist because I think I find a lot of, I find a lot of, God, I don't want to say inspiration, but in what that changes of, I'm sorry, the changes of faces or Santa Ana, the one with the, Frida Kahlo and all those people. That particular artist, they have a lot of interactions of something with learning, right? I think that's very wonderful for the mind. But I think in this day and age, when we talk about mental health and all these things that people are quietly going through, it's not something new, but it's just something that's just, had a lot more attention now. And I think that sometimes some people, they really do kind of say, send me a sign, and something as small as this can really change their perspective of this entire day. And I think this was great. It's very simple, but it's great.
I had a comment about this one. Sorry, let me pull this up. This one, the budget was at least detailed enough to show the difference between the fabrication and installation versus artist fee. And again, I'm not at all like against having an artist fee, but I worried that the artist wasn't actually directly involved in the fabricating of this at all. And so it would basically be a commission to a company to make these acrylic parts and then installing it separately. It didn't seem to have that part where I wanted like the artist take on it, the artist print on the actual piece as well. And like for me, this seems fairly easily vandalized. And as a point, I think the correct spelling of Confucius would have also made this that much more credible as a proposal.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, moving forward. Okay, and next applicant is we have Alicia Rojas's application again. Any more comments about this for the Main and McFadden landscape?
Just a quick question about the overall thing. If they submitted to more than one location, then the city will decide if they want to put one or the other, wherever.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I just want to add a detail here that I love, the idea about making sure the Holy Sugar Factory Corporation is a admirable one in some ways, but I do also just think it could be an opportunity for us to have another conversation about that. So even if even if that particular image is one that the city decided not to go with for reasons of historical reasons there, I still think it creates this opportunity to have a conversation about the history of Santa Ana and how the city has evolved from this agricultural place. So I want to point out, I like the idea, but I also don't think it should take away from the beautiful art.
Yeah, I want to kind of jump on that commentary, because it would really suck if something how do you say it, if something stopped this proposal because of the reputation of the company. So maybe focus more on the artwork, or maybe even turn the imagery of the sugar plantation into artwork and not necessarily feature the actual exact business. In the future, or if they do decide to go with this and something does arise, but because it is a very good idea. So yeah, I agree.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, we'll move forward. And next one is we have Joy Fire again. Any comments for her for Main and McFadden landscape? No? Okay. Next is the UCI School of Education Faces of Santa Ana again. So bye, Robin. Bye, Chair McNair. Oh, you can turn off your video when you can. Thank you. All right. So the applicant is UCI School of Education Faces of Santa Ana with a final score of 88 out of 100. Their description is, this wall mural will feature different animals, people, and objects of all different heights and allow children to measure themselves in comparison to the paintings on the wall. This will create learning opportunities around measurement, proportions, and estimation. Yes, Commissioner Flores.
Thank you. So I think out of all of their proposed like interactive proposals, this one for me, I think was the most feasible out of all of them. And I think that's why I like this one the most, especially at this location, because it's right across the street from a school. So I think it would, what was it? I think it was the last category that we graded them on, like the relationship it would have with the community and community impact. I think this would have the most impact in the community just because it's literally right across the street from the school. So it's like it's a very good like a learning opportunity, I think.
Anyone else?
One quick comment. I think as a child, I would have loved to see this on the handball court at my school. And so I think this artist and this team, if it's all feasible and possible, maybe reach out to the school district directly to see if they can put this on the handball court directly inside that school.
May I ask what the cost was?
I think go ahead, Commissioner Gallegos. You're about to say something.
I wanted to say I absolutely second what Commissioner Vu said. That's such a good idea. These handball courts, yeah, they don't have to be one solid color. They could be something even more. That would be an amazing idea.
Okay, Vice Chair Hernandez.
Yeah, what was the budget for this?
I believe, let me see.
15,000.
15,000, okay.
Okay, it just seemed on the higher end for me, but maybe I don't know enough about murals to know how much they cost.
Okay. Any other?
Is that more or less what around what they cost, Tramp?
Yeah, I think they usually go by square feet. So if the smaller the wall, it could be anywhere. I mean, the range it depends on the artist and how, how well known this artist is. But it can be like $13 per square feet to 23. I've seen it go up to 30 per square feet, depending on the artist. So I think it can be within the range. And, and depending on how big the wall is. I think the smaller the wall, the more the per square feet, the larger the wall, they tend to give a little bit of a reduction.
I just think there was a missed opportunity here to somehow tie in any kind of history or I mean, this mural could be anywhere, and I felt like, wow, I'd love to really make sure that the art that we're funding and advocating for is speaks to our history, speaks to our city, speaks to the uniqueness of this place. So.
Commissioner Flores?
Yeah, I think from what I recall, I think it's the same group with the UCI. I think they were also planning on doing what are they, like those focus groups to work on the theming. So maybe find out what that focus group is going to detail. So that way we could suggest they do include more theming, because I do agree with that point. And then when it comes to terms of pricing, I'm also not too familiar with what pricing is for murals and things like that. But how I thought of it across the board with all these applications when it came to pricing is what kind of impact is it going to have in the community, and then basing the price, like, is the pricing worth that impact? If it's going to have a major impact, then I think the pricing would be worth it. Not necessarily speaking about this proposal, but just in general how I approached it. Is the cost gonna be equal to the impact it will have on the community?
Vice Chair Hernandez?
Yeah, I just want to echo Commissioner Russell, the previous comments. It just, I mean, this in the UCI and Faces on Santa Ana, they sent out various proposals, right? So, I guess I liked all of them. I liked some of them much more, but then when it came down to the cultural relevancy, this one was like, I felt the least of all of them. And also, the price of this, this is pretty basic artwork. We're not talking like, the Frida and Einstein and, or other, conceptual art, but this is, basic, but it would be nice to have. And the other thing is like about being able to have it be bilingual would have been great too. But just overall, I think just the question around just the cost of it, I guess, and the location of it. But and then my last question, I guess, to Tram would be, if we approve these, which I'm assuming we're doing that today, then we have no ability to impact what the artist does after this beyond but they should tie themselves as closely to the renderings that they gave is the only thing. Am I correct?
What you were asked to do is to rate them artistically. And yes, I think all your comments will be taken into consideration and will be shared with the artist. So hopefully that would make for a stronger artwork at the end.
I have just a couple of comments. I think to my understanding on that was that we're not approving, we're just rating. Is that correct?
You're not approving, you're just rating. Yeah.
Okay.
Public Works will do the final approval.
I see. Yeah, I definitely think to Commissioners Russell and Hernandez that they were mentioning is even though we can't see the end product, I was like thinking, well, we have Catwoman, we also have a race car. We have, in terms of like history, we can even put like a beat or something. But some of these other proposals, they did show us a finished rendering, and I think that's really important because it was really tough for these people to make it on the deadlines and say, hey, this is what we're giving to you. So I think this is one of the opportunities that this artist can look on and say, maybe I should give them a little bit more of a finished kind of rendering so that we can actually, take a better look at it. My second question is, the wall that this will go on, I know that you said it's a private property. Now, is that mural going to stay there? Or is it going to stay there in perpetuity, or is it just something until that property owner decides to paint it? Because if that's the case, then we need to think, should we really even invest in painting that wall?
That's exactly the questions we would be asking. When you deal with private property, they have a right, and you would have an agreement with them. You can say, you agree to have this up for 10 years, 20 years, whatever you'd like, whatever number. If they do sell their property, does that carry over to the next? So those are things to consider when dealing with private. So it makes it more complicated. Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll move on. Now we're moving on to the final location, the third and final location, South Main Street median. The median is in the middle of the street here. So there are cars driving, on either side of it. Right now, this is what it looks like. It's just this green iron fence. I know this looks deceptive in that you think it's right next to the school, but there's actually another lane over here for cars to drive. So it's in the median. We cannot walk it. So keeping that in mind. All right, so the first application is Jose Trejo Maya again. Any further, or any final comments on this application? No? Okay, next. Next is Wendy Young with a score of 54.2 out of 100. Her description is a proposal for a cordon steel replacement of the South Main Street median fence. Comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this, to me, I couldn't see any kind of historical reference or to the culture here or anything like that, with the exception that it's just an upgrade in terms of the look of a fence. It's pretty, but that's really all I could see for this one.
To me, it just looked too much like the border wall. Yeah.
Another thing is that the budget actually comes directly from the vendor who would be providing the fence, which means that all our money would just go directly to that company. There's no artist fee, there's nothing at all going on. It's just over $200,000 going directly to a vendor.
I will put in a word, though. I did like how she mentioned that, how she understood how the material would evolve through weather and over time. So I just appreciate that one little detail, but concur on the other point.
And just in case, Chair McNair, you can come back in case you thought you forgot. Okay, any other comments, or we'll move forward? Okay. Next applicant is Priscilla Hernandez with a final score of 59.2 out of 100. Priscilla's description is: proposal is to paint a utility box on South Main Street with art expressing the history from the 30s to 60s of this area in Santa Ana, with sacred geometry symbols as the foundation and art that strongly represents Santa Ana's development and greatness dancing around the center circle. A mandala is formed. These symbols include a racing hot rod from America's first drag strip, the Rickenbacker's iconic flow guitar, the word jazz to represent the music influenced by John's Black Derby nightclub, also Santa Ana parrots, the 101 highway sign, along with flower designs that will complement the mandala design.
So my comments to this artist was, as much as open as I am with just coexisting with everyone, I think one of the things for the rubric on this was that they couldn't incorporate any religious symbols, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Overt religious statement.
Mm-hmm. And beyond that also, I feel like this design is also several disparate images and there's no cohesion to the entire piece here. And there's a lot of negative space that's not being used as well. And something that would be more striking, dynamic, and cohesive, I think, would have better suited this particular project.
Any other comments? Okay, moving forward. Next applicant is Marina Aguilera, final score of 65.8 out of 100. Marina's description is: the green parrots of Santa Ana papel picado metal art panels will reflect the city's past and present in colors of Santa Ana's blue and gold. Metal panels laser cut into the iconic parrots with delicate papel picado backgrounds. Strong, beautiful panels made with appropriate gauged steel to be utilized for the fencing along Main Street. All 43 panels with dimensions of 5 feet by 6 feet would then be industrially powder coated to resist the elements and ready for installation. As a side note, planters, ground covering images shown are for visuals only, as well installation is not included in art project.
I didn't know, for whatever reason, I missed the installation portion, that it wouldn't be part of it. But I'd imagine she would have to, pair up with Public Works to get this done. I personally thought that the blue and gold they look too much like a school kind of color. So I felt like it would have been better in that multicolor if that's what she was offering. That just seems a lot more, reasonable, I guess. I really like this one particularly because I like the material. I also like the fact that it's vandalism resistant, and it does express the culture. It expresses the history. I thought that the budget in terms of I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember that it seemed like it was feasible.
The amount requested is $31,964.40. And for this one in particular, I think the scale of the size, the artist really understood scale well and the way to portray an image larger and have it still be striking.
I also wanted to say, I think this was a really creative way that she used this fence because it's a very awkward space, right? I mean, it's a median and it's a very thin kind of area. So the fact that she was able to make something out of nothing, I think that's great.
Yeah, I really like the papel picado and the color. I think it would really bring a lot of vibrant energy to that location. I'm
By the way,
surprised it's got a lower score, but yeah.
Can I ask the rest of the commissioners what they thought versus the blue and gold versus the multicolor?
I'm in alignment with your thinking about that. It feels like the spirit and vibrancy of what the cultural representation would be multicolored versus what you're saying, like the school's blue and gold.
I agree. I prefer the colorful one more.
Yeah, multicolored for sure.
Trem, I'm curious, that quote that she had for the dual color versus multicolor, would that change?
I'm not sure. But it's reasonable that it won't necessarily change. Any other comments? All right, moving forward. Marinas again for the street median. Any further comments on this? Okay, move forward. Sophia Lee I'm not sure if Sophia understood that this was not a place to put, bike racks, but she did mark all the locations, so I had to put it in. I think I'm gonna move forward, yes. And then Roger, next applicant is Roger Eyes R, final average score of 75 out of 100. Comments?
I feel like this one was, I think it was too much negative space for the amount of space that there is. So I am surprised that, where this is on the chart as opposed to the other picado that we just saw, because it is similar kind of artwork.
I definitely agree that the scale ought to be larger to account for the size of the fence. And I would have really liked to see original artwork or sketches for this piece rather than these stock images. Something original would have really put a particular spin for the artist's print on the submission.
I wanted to give a nod to the idea of it part of a historical highway, and also.
Sorry, Chair. I believe
you're right.
yourself.
I
All right. So disregard everything she said. Any other
Well,
comments?
I will piggyback on that idea just a little bit in that, only a few submissions highlighted the historical nature of this highway or the drag race. This was a drag strip, I think.
Oh.
And so, am I correct, right?
Yes, I just realized I did not read his description, but go ahead. I'll read it.
Well, go ahead and do that, and then I can be accurate in my comments.
Okay. I'm sorry, I pronounced it incorrectly, but Recuerdos of Santa Ana, four plexiglass single color silhouette, Hispanic or car culture imagery for the South Street median strip fence dedicated to the South Main community.
Yes, and so he did his homework, and he really tried to kind of, I think, knowing that this is not a place where you're going to be looking at the art, because mostly, as anyone who's probably done this, you're driving quite fast across this. So I just really appreciate that he sort of tried to find a way to blend the history in with some artwork. But the plexiglass piece, I had question marks about how durable that would be in this location.
Any other comments? No? Okay. Next is Diane Navarro with a score of 77 out of 100. And Diane's description is poster for a bus shelter.
Should I go ahead?
Oh, yes, sorry. Commissioner Flores, go ahead.
Yeah. I like this one because of all the theming she tied into it. Part of it also was how we talked about having artists from that are more well recognized, but also supporting up and coming artists. And I think this was, at least for me, a way to support an up and coming artist from Santa Ana. And I really feel like they embodied our city with this imagery and the description they gave along with it as well.
I do think there was a misunderstanding of the location though, because I believe in the artist's description, it is for a bus shelter, but instead the location chosen was for the median strip fence.
Yeah.
And so
I
there
think that was
was a
also
little bit of,
yeah.
yeah.
You're right.
And if this were instead to be offered for the bus shelter on the other side of Maine, I think more dynamic colors, something that would have popped more, might suit this better, so that it could actually be visible from a distance. And I believe the budget proposed was extremely low because the image itself is completed, and all that needs to be done is to basically print it at a larger scale and then install it. My concern is that even on my computer screen, there's some pixelation on this image already. And I worry that if it were to be blown up to 4 feet by 4 feet as requested, that pixelation will only get that much more obvious.
Yeah.
Not only that, Commissioner Vu, to your point, I think if it's like stretched out, right, I think that would also affect kind of the proportions of what we're seeing.
I really like, though, as an artist who is emerging and looking for that feedback, I really like the sketch patterns. I realize they might not work so well depending on scale, but I do think that there's some interesting things going on here, but it just doesn't feel like a finished product or something. I feel like there's still something that needs to happen or be added, but I love the detail work. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? Okay. And then next is Alicia's again. Any further comments about this on the Main Street median?
My only comment would be, since these are to me, it looks like it's obviously out of place, right? It shouldn't be along on the medium necessarily. I think we were going for the bus stop. Is this going to affect the way the other ones are rated as well?
What does that mean?
For example, the previous one from Diana Navarro, she obviously meant for a bus stop, right? But now let's say these two ones, they are ahead of these other proposals that we've seen already. So is that going to affect them?
No, I think we reasonably can assume that this is not going to, not meant for the median, could not fit, because you have to see through the median anyway for safety reasons. So this would be too solid, So yeah, I wouldn't say that, oh, look, Alicia rated higher than so-and-so, therefore Alicia's going to get it in the median, This is just artistically, you're saying that this is strong artistically, and then the placement will be decided later.
Also, something I wanted to know, even though it doesn't, I guess it doesn't say it on the application, but there is a bus stop across the street from that median.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
So I don't know if
Possibly
it, if it would be possible or to be done there, but so that's but then again, I guess that would only be for people that are familiar. So I don't know if that would be fair to all the applicants.
Yeah. Oh, no, I think it's okay. I think Public Works can be, will be logical about that. Like if they have a lot of bus stops that they're revamping, then they could use many of these artists' work, if especially if it's being rated highly. But those are all good points. Thank you for at least clarifying it, especially if the artist is listening at home or something, so that they're not stressed out or freaked out if they have the same questions. Okay, then moving on to our final application of the day, of the evening, for Main Street Media and Joy Fire. Any last comments about this application for this location? I mean, I think it won't work if it's about plugging in. Nobody's going to sit there. So but artistically, it was rated highly, or proposal wise. Yes, Vice Chair Hernandez.
Yeah, I just want to, I wasn't able to comment earlier, but I really, really like this concept. I think, just cultural relevance, and also just, a resource. God knows everybody needs a place to charge their phone. So yeah, I just wanted to uplift it. I think it's great.
Okay. All right. So we've come to the end of this in record time. So yay. But any final thoughts? And then we can move on from this item.
Just one thing I wanted to say, Trem, is I'm glad that I got to see a lot of these proposals that not just represented Latino culture, but I did see some other cultures that were in there.
Oh, wait, you muted yourself. Commissioner Gallegos.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Sorry.
Go back to you saw Latino culture and you appreciated that they were.
I appreciated that I saw Latino culture. I mean, that's my background, but I really appreciate that I saw other cultures in there as well. I think it's really important to always remember that your own culture is not the only culture that's here present. And I think I really enjoyed seeing that. So I hope to see more of that in the future.
Exactly. Commissioner Vu.
I just wanted to send out like a blanket, thank you to all the hard work that everyone put into these applications. Some of these are very extremely detailed, must have taken many, many hours to put in. And even the ones that were simpler, I hope that this process was one that is a learning experience for all the people who submitted. I hope that, honestly, I hope that you do request the comments, because I tried to be very detailed, or fairly detailed in my comments. And I hope that everyone who submitted continues to submit, because these submissions are how we continue to uplift the arts in our city as much as we can.
I want to be honest and say I was very skeptical that, putting art just it felt kind of randomly just on this commuter strip. And I thought, well, who's going to stop and experience? And you know, the artists of our community proved me wrong. And really, I walked away out of this experience just going, wow, you know, we have so much untapped potential. And I really hope that we can do many more of these so that artists can really stretch their muscles and try new things, learn about our history, try to figure out ways to tell the story of Santa Ana. So yes, I'm so inspired, and I look forward to the next round of this process.
Agreed. So, go ahead, Leona, Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, I just want to say for everyone that applied, well, thank you for applying, you know, and trying to be a part of your community. We really appreciate that. And, you know, continue making art, continue to work on your craft, continue to look for those opportunities, and hopefully there are more opportunities are presented in the future.
Oh, there will be opportunities.
Absolutely. I was going to say that too. Yes, thank you. So would this be time to move on to staff member comments?
Yes.
Okay, does staff have any comments you wish to share with the commission?
A very important comment, actually, and maybe something that some of you are looking forward to or not. I don't know. Maybe it petrifies you, but we will be meeting in person again starting October. So the governor's mandate of, you know, like waiving some of the Brown Act stuff, like technically we're supposed to post where all the commissioners are meeting. So when you meet at City Hall, that's the address that we post. Everyone's meeting at City Hall, and that's where we post outside. And technically, according to Brown Act, if you're meeting from your home, we would have to post all your home addresses, and then outside of your home, you would have to put your, you know, an announcement, and public can join, you know, literally. And so we don't want to do that, and so we're all coming back. So there's no hybrid. It's just all coming back to city council chambers starting October. On that note, yeah, so that's it. That's it for staff comments.
Okay. Did you have a question, Commissioner Vu?
Yes, I do. So one of the things that this pandemic has really highlighted is the accessibility of technology to give people who aren't regularly able to actually attend physical meetings the ability to comment. I know that we are going to continue to have email comments, but is there a way at all that we can make it so that the public community members can still comment virtually, and we can hear their voices? I feel like there's something to be said about hearing people's voices, even if it's through a screen, even if we are meeting in person.
Just to comment on that, I can check with the clerk of the council to see if there's a possibility to receive comments via email or you know, in person. But as of right now, I'm not sure. But we'll get back to you and, you know, provide that information. Okay.
Yeah, but you're asking, Commissioner, you're asking if public can call in, right?
Yes. I am a huge advocate for these online meetings, at least in part because I get to hear so many other people who like have to take care of someone at home, but can make the 15-minute call, who have to be en route somewhere, but who can call in or something. I think that access is huge, and I think that it's important that we preserve that as much as possible, and even as we return to practices pre-pandemic.
Tram, I would. Oh,
Go
I'm so
ahead.
sorry. I was under the impression that they could call in before or at the end. Am I incorrect in that?
Bianca, do you have?
It's just that because of the technology, I don't have access to a lot of things. That's why I need to check with the clerk of the council and see how we can have people call in via phone and see how we can work that out. But as of right now, I cannot give you an answer because I don't want to give wrong information. But yeah.
I believe pre-pandemic it was only in person, and we didn't have that option. So I want to thank you, Commissioner Vu, for your lens of inclusivity that you always bring with compassion, leading with compassion for all of our community. So thank you for that. This is the time in our agenda for the commission members to make comments. If you have a comment to make, please note that no member may speak more than once until all have had an opportunity to speak. And also the commission may limit our comments to 3 minutes each. And given the time that it's already 8:30 and we've been on this meeting for 3 hours, I would like to be mindful of our time. Does the commission have any comments they wish to share? I think I'll just go around and call out people, or would you like just to volunteer? Go ahead. Thank you, Vice Chair Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I just want to congratulate everyone, the new folks that are coming in, Commissioner Flores and Commissioner Gallegos. We're definitely going to reach out and loop in and hopefully get everybody caught up to speed on all the things that are happening. It's definitely an exciting time with Art and Culture Commission right now. There's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of ideas, but also a lot of just individual research and connections that we need to make on the issues with the people in the front line, the artists, staff members, and even our council members as well. So I also wanted to thank everybody that submitted. I know that it took time; it was not easy, and so I appreciate every single one of the persons that are submitting. It's a difficult decision, and it's definitely a balance between trying to ultimately prioritize our local Santana artists, but also making sure that we have the best art that represents the best of our city. And so I wanted to say that. I also want to thank Commissioner Russell and Commissioner Boo for their work on the Art Ad Hoc Committee. It absolutely was not easy. The stance shifted, in my opinion, on where we were when we had the intention to start and where we ended up. But ultimately, I feel very proud of the work that we did, and we met several times. Definitely, putting in the work here on the commission. I'm so proud of them and everybody that served on it so far, and I've served along with. And the last thing I'll say is that I'm sorry it's long, but I just want to update that I've connected with the University of Wisconsin, Professor Dr. Carolina Sarmiento, the professor out there, and there will be a class of hers that will be working with the art culture master plan, and them looking at it and also being able to look at others from other cities, and so that they will give us some valuable resources when we're looking at how we can complete the next 5 years of art and culture master plan, and what we can do to get those things moving based on the experience of other cities. So that is all. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Commissioner Vu.
First off, thank you to staff for always communicating, staying late, working till the sun sets outside your window, and for the keeping us accountable to the submittable comments, but also giving us some flex room. I know I was definitely a little bit late, but I really appreciated all the guidance and the communication regarding that. Welcome to Commissioners Flores and Gallegos. I hope this could be a really cooperative and collaborative relationship moving forward, so that we can try to make decisions and give advice to the City Council, especially in ways that really benefit our local artists, community members, and staff as we can. Look forward to getting to know both of you better. I look forward to meeting all of you in person for the first time soon. I think last thing from me is a plug. On Saturday, October 2nd at Centennial Park in Santa Ana, we are going to be hosting, Bitrise is going to be co-hosting a music and community festival Bring Human Rights Home, We Celebrate Sanctuary Here festival. It is the second, the last one, 2019, and we were able to bring out lots of different folks to basically make sure that we continue to uphold and uplift immigrant rights in Vietnamese and Latinx communities, understanding that solidarity is what we need to move forward. Solidarity is what we need to really build out our communities. There's going to be live music, there's going to be food, there's going to be community resources. I will be forwarding to Tram our flyer with our super amazing lineup. I hope you all can make the time to come out. It's going to be from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. and I'll be there 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So if you need anything, let me know and I will give you all the information you need on it. Again, thank you to everyone and I hope to see you there.
Thank you, Commissioner Vu. Commissioner Flores.
Well, I just want to take the time to thank everyone that tuned in today, that gave comment, to everyone that applied as well. Once again, thank you for applying. And thank you to the fellow commissioners and the staff for being so welcoming and, helping, helping me with this new position. I look forward to learning a lot and collaborating with y'all. Hopefully so we can give some good input to our city and hopefully a lot of good comes out of this while I'm here, hopefully. And just to give a little background about myself, most of my experience comes from a music world and cultural, not too big on the arts background, but I've been a musician since I was 7 years old. It started when I was in elementary school, that I learned how to play the piano at Madison Elementary. In high school, I was in the mariachi. I went to Godinez Fundamental High School. And then the last 10 years, I've been in the norteño scene. I play the accordion, the bajo quinto, and I'm a singer as well. So I've played in a lot of local venues around here with my band. So I have a lot of experience with music, events and things like that. And then in the arts world, I had a few classes with Judy Baca. She's a well-known muralist in the greater LA area. She just recently got funding to continue her work on one of her pieces called The Great Wall of LA, which is going to be turned into a mile-long mural. I think it's in the San Fernando Valley. So if y'all haven't seen it, you should check it out. It was a very cool experience working with her. I took a few classes on Chicano murals with her, and I learned a lot through that. And I'm hoping I get to learn a lot more working with all of you and your different backgrounds. So thank you to everyone for being here again. And I'm honored to be serving as a commissioner with y'all.
Thank you. Commissioner Gallegos.
And I just want to say thank you really to everybody who's come in and all the staff who's, you guys' tireless work. I really do appreciate you guys staying here till, 8:30. And not only that, but just everyone who, from the community who were so welcoming. Everyone's so welcoming and so wonderful to be part of this just larger community. I did want to mention that to the artists really who submitted, who worked really hard on these proposals, I want you to know that this is just my opinion. I'm just trying to say, you guys have a puzzle piece, the city has a puzzle piece, and I'm just here, including the rest of the commissioners, to just give you feedback on how are we going to make your artwork a living installation, an actual piece. Like, what can you do to get it there? So please, this is not, I don't want anyone to see this as like, oh, I'm judging your artwork, because I know as an artist how much work you guys probably put into it, that you do put into it. Please don't take it as I'm trying to judge your work. It's not that. It's I want to see your things out there. I want to see them in Santa Ana. So please just use me as a resource if I can in any way. Use me as a medium to be a stepping stone for you to get installed. So thank you again to everybody so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And did you want to go, yeah. Commissioner Russell? Okay.
I just want to say a big welcome to our new commissioners. It's been a pleasure, and I'm so excited how you all have already jumped right in to the process. And I just felt like today's conversation was very affirming. And oh my gosh, Lionel, Commissioner Flores, the last time I checked, the music was one of the arts, a very important art form. And to have worked with the amazing Judy Baca, I'm so jealous. And I can't wait to go see her exhibit at MOLA soon, next weekend. But yes, for all the artists in Santa Ana, I think I want to reiterate that we are here to support you. And I want to really look at other ways that we can make sure that every time they submit, they feel as confident with the pieces like the budget and the historical aspects. So there aren't these questions about, did I do it right? Or why didn't I get picked? But that we can support them in any way that we can. We may not be able to manage Art Walk, but I think these are things we definitely can address and make sure they feel like Santa Ana is where they want to do this artwork.
Thank you. It looks like Vice Chair Hernandez has another comment.
Real quickly, I'm so sorry, but I just wanted to really uplift what Commissioner Vu mentioned about inclusivity. And it's being done right now, hybrid with the city council. So it's going to be a matter of, perhaps, just logistical and access and perhaps cost, but these meetings have been well attended during the pandemic, and I just would hate for the number of engagements and public comments, from the community to go down because they're not able to have the same access. So really, truly wanting to uplift that, and if need be, if each one of us needs to talk to the council to make it happen, to allow that, and for all commissions, frankly. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the commissioners. I guess I get to speak last to echo all the gratitudes, all the appreciations, all the things that the commissioners have said for our community, for our staff, the appreciation for this process that we've gone through tonight. I do want to remind everybody in our community, pardon me, that we have several more pots of funding that the city has provided to us. We have a COVID relief memorial opportunity coming up. We have mural opportunities coming up with walls in the community. We have artists, invest in the artist grants coming up. So we have a lot of opportunities while we continue to look for sustainable funding. And thank you to Vice Chair Hernandez for the work that you're doing to bring in some outside lens on how we can keep our commission sustainable and the Arts and Culture Office sustainable. To that end, I do know that our Arts and Culture Office is working to try to help us deliver on being able to align with the city's sentiments around the economic impact of the arts so we can collect the data that we need to be able to move forward. And also, in terms of education, I want to remind everybody that on Saturday, the city, along with the Oasis International, is doing the capacity building for the creative professionals. So if you want to, as an artist, you can be workshopped for free to be able to get budgeting, coaching, develop how you do banking, insurance, all of that. So there's education being provided by the city in partnership with community organizations. And in addition, Arts OC has provided a lot of funding opportunities as well. So I think there's some really great efforts happening all along the way to help artists recover, to get back to being sustainable and really make it better than it's ever been before. And I want to close with, this week is Arts and Education Week, National Arts and Education Week. So we got to celebrate all the arts that we have in our schools and all the various educators out there, whether they're working in the public schools, the private schools, whether they're after-school support providers, or however we are educating youth and adults in the arts. So thank you to all the arts educators that are working tirelessly to bring kids this access to what has been in the past privilege and knowledge, and make the arts part of a well-rounded education. So celebrating that. And on that note, I would like to say that this meeting is adjourned. So our next regular meeting is actually scheduled for October 21st. It is a Tuesday, not a Thursday. And we will be meeting in person. And I look forward to meeting everybody in person and
Wait, October 21st? What happened?
That's what it says on the script.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Sorry, no, October 21st is a Thursday.
Oh, it is a Thursday?
Yes.
Oh, my bad. It is a Thursday.
Yes.
My apologies. So it's same time. All right.
Yes.
So thank you for correcting me. It has been a long day. All right, everybody have a fabulous night. And again, welcome to our new commissioners, and we'll see you next month.
Good night,
Bye,
everyone.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone.